All right, what is up, internet? It is your friendly role-playing Ginger here. I've collected some people to join me on this hangout call to play some D&D on this Friday night. They're actually all brand new faces to me. There was actually a fourth one here just a second ago who is dramatically entering now. And these guys are all, I've never played with any of them before. So first thing I'll kind of throw in there is if you are watching this for some strange reason and thinking to yourself, hey, I want to play D&D with guys I've never met before on the internet, well, I will direct you to a channel on Facebook called Absolute Tabletop Official Group. You search that in. It's a like-minded community that likes to play tabletop RPGs run by 4 guys that basically do what they love, create content, and it's a pretty cool group. That's how I met these guys. So check that out if you're some reason here and like, what the hell is going on? This is D&D. I want to do this. That's a good place to start. Other than that, we are playing a Gnoll one-shot called Gnolling in the Deep. And if you are one of the 5 people that regular my channel and thinking to yourself, but Chris, I've already watched a one-shot called Gnolling in the Deep. Well, you're not wrong in that sense. It's just that I had enough interest to run this game twice. And the first time I ran it, the players were great, but I was feeling pretty crummy and wasn't necessarily happy with how I ran the game. So I figured, hey, I got another whole group here. They seem like some cool guys. So we'll give it a go, a second recording, and see if I can maybe outdo myself. Other than that, how about we say hi to the 4 gentlemen that joined me today? What we'll do is I'll start with Craig, go to Joseph, then go to Nick, and then go to Jackson. So go ahead, Craig, say who you are and anything you want to say.
Well, my name is Craig. This is my first online gaming session, so don't really have anything to plug, but really looking forward to it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Go ahead, Joseph.
Sorry, just trying to flip between windows. Hi, I'm Joseph. I am currently really tired because it's 10 to 4 in the morning for me because I live in Scotland. I have a sort of a little YouTube channel where I do video games, blind let's plays, that sort of things. I can link it if you want, Chris. Or
yeah, man, sure. I'll even check it out myself. That sounds cool to me.
Cool. It just goes under the name Berringer, which is an online alias, but relatively tiny. But yeah, cool. That's essentially it. Really excited to play with you.
Absolutely. I'll throw it in the description after, as long as I remember. I'll try my best to remember, though.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Nicholas.
Yep, Nicholas here. Not the first game online, but I haven't played much. Ready to kill some gnolls from Belgium. So yeah, pretty early here too. Probably plug the AppTap channel, of course, like you said. Best group ever in Facebook. If you don't know it and you want to play D&D, then what the hell? Let's kill some gnoll.
Yeah, what the heck are you doing here if you don't know about AppTab? Who am I kidding? Go ahead, Jackson. Say what's up.
Good evening, good morning, or good wherever you are. My name is Jackson Johnson. I run the channel The Creative Storm. It's a tiny little D&D channel on YouTube that is my precious seed. It will grow soon, I promise. But other than that, I'm just here. I'm ready to bring down some righteous flame on these Gnolls, sons of bitches. So let's do this.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll get you to throw that link to me too, and I'll try to add that to my description at the end of this video so that anyone that wants to check those 2 gentlemen out can definitely do so. But without further ado, we're running a little bit behind. So how about we get into Gnolling in the Deep, take 2, the revisiting of Gnolls, whatever the hell you want to call it. Let's get it done. 4 long years ago, the Lord of Savagery terrorized the material plane. The beast of butchery, the prince of Gnolls, feasted on all who were unfortunate enough to cross him and his war band. It became known as the Ravaged War, for Yeenoghu, the prince of demons, ruler of the 422nd layer of the abyss, also known as the Seeping Wood, broke free and devoured much of the world that we knew as Faerun or Toril. The war is now over. Yeenoghu defeated, sent back to the hells that he belongs, his warband devastated. But his relentless hunger has not been sated. It has scarred and left the world starved. There's been no day for celebration in the demon's defeat. For when a demon lord walks the material plane, they leave more than destruction and death. This form of raw, chaotic evil defiles the land. It infects it to its very core. 4 years, Yeenoghu besmirched the land that he stampeded through. This infection cannot be undone in one day, nor one battle. Whether you've played a role in the final battle called the Crimson Feast or not, you have felt the impact of this war. It's only been days after Yeenoghu's defeat. There's been a sigh of relief felt across the Sword Coast, but these scars, they do not remedy quickly, especially ones that are left to fester. You four have been hired to sweep through the mainlands, through the heart of Yeenoghu's warpath, and to make sure that his evil infection is uprooted and destroyed. The war has been won, but the battle has just begun. Whether you are adventurers, knights, farmers, blacksmiths, bards, whatever the heck you were before, the war has ripped that away, and now you are a survivor of the Demon Lord's destruction. We're going to introduce characters here now. And what I want you guys to do, and I don't want anyone to go into too much depth about it or freak out or worry about it, but I want you to introduce your character, their name, what they look like, and give me one scene, maybe a minute long, of them in this war, how it affected them, and then just kicking ass or whatever. However you want to get the party and whoever's watching to understand your character. Just really quickly give me a description, and we're going to go backwards this time and throw it to Jackson. Who are you playing? What was your character looking like? And how did the war impact them?
We cut up to see a woman of slightly above average height for a woman. She has wispy, pure white hair that reaches just past her chin, and porcelain-like skin and golden gleaming irises. She is covered in this large plate armor of silver with gold, with a gold inlay on it. The signs of the Morning Lord across most of her armor. She is scraping a rock against a great longsword that she carries. She is Varya Cartwright, and she is an Aasimar, and she has fought much in this war. In fact, in the Crimson Feast itself, she stood with many soldiers at the front lines, fighting against the ravenous horde of the demon lord of Gnolls himself. She expected to die that day, but she did not. And now, faced with a future that she cannot understand, she looks to perhaps find a meaningful death in battle.
Sick, my dude. All right, let's go to Nicholas. Who are you playing? What they look like?
Sure, I'm playing a gnome called Darty. Probably the first time that we see Darty, if this were like a movie. He's a normal gnome, really small fella, happy fella. He's walking with his family on the woods or something, and everything looks fine until screams, terror, blood, gnolls everywhere. And he's fleeing for his life. He's trying to protect his family, but he's too weak. And there's killing everywhere around him, and he just can't protect his family, his kids, his wife. And he's suddenly waking up. Blood on his face, corpses around him. And he just sees the cane of his old man that he used to... It's the sword like he uses to walk, but it's actually a sword. And then we pan maybe 4 years later. He has paint all over his face, really strange painting, really strange clothing. He's laughing, killing gnolls, and there is no life in his eyes. He's just gone. But when there's gnolls, he's just somewhat alive. And this is what he is now, accepting any mission that he can to avenge himself and his family and everyone that has been killed by these things.
Super cool, man. All right, let's go to Joseph. Who are you playing?
The camera pans up on this young-ish woman, muddy sort of colored hair, She is standing in front of the mirror, just like tying it back, almost like Mulan style. There's a sword resting on the table beside her, and as she looks down at this sword, she can see images of watching her father leave for the war for the first time, and then seeing her father leave for the war the last time. She remembers this quite stoic woman coming to her holding this long sword and holding this pair of gauntlets, the only two things recovered from her father's body. And as she finishes donning her armor and these two rough-looking gauntlets, too large for her hands, and she picks up this sword, Cadence is ready to avenge her father and finish what he started.
Wicked. I like it. All right. Last but certainly not least, who are you playing, Craig?
Playing Lurum Marnis. She's a moon elf trained in the ancient ways of the Eldritch Knight. She has long silver hair that she usually keeps tied behind her head in a tight bun. The typical light, pale skin of the elves. She has stoic, blank blue eyes that rarely show emotion. She wears a dark green tinted set of studded leather and cloth armor with a very elvish styled shield with an 8-pointed star on it. She was raised to fight with sword, shield, and spell. 300 years ago, she fought against a demon incursion. 200 years ago, it was an ogre horde. 100 years ago, it was a powerful necromancer and his legion of undead. It didn't take long for Laura to learn not to get attached to anyone or even anything. And despite the constant looming threat of death, she seems to always outlast those around her. The humans she had saved from the demons, their great-great-grandchildren, have died of old age already. She stays to fight the evil and protect the good, but only because the evil must be defeated and the good protected. The mantra drilled into her by her trainers.
Sick. All right. Awesome, guys. Everyone take a point of inspiration because that was all 10 out of 10. Super cool. I'm digging it already. I'm feeling the hype. So let's get into it. Like I said, I guess I haven't necessarily said it, but like I'm going to say right this very second, the Crimson Feast, the final battle against Yeenoghu, ended just 3 days ago at the doorstep of Waterdeep. Yeenoghu banished back to his hellish homelands, and the ravenous mongrels, the largest Gnoll warband to ever be amassed, has been devastated and scattered across the land. Untold death has swept through the Sword Coast, and in Yeenoghu's wake, a horrible scar has been left on the land and the surviving people alike. You four find yourself following the long road north. You've been doing so for about 2.5 days now. Once this road you follow now was a beautiful, thriving countryside. As you walk through it now, it is nothing but a deadlands. It's like death itself has painted this landscape before you. Only a ghostly howling wind calls out to the barren fields. The skies themselves gray, as if mourning the countless lost souls in the war. Even the gods weep for the horrors that they witnessed through the ravaged war. There's a cold, gentle, misty rain that has not let up since you've left Waterdeep. It's as if this rain is trying to resuscitate the land itself, but the earth has been defiled. The stench of death is everywhere. It's inescapable. It's maddening. The world feels empty, lonely, and broken. There's a tangible weight that burdens your soul after a war this savage comes to a heel. But there's still work for you to do, for your weary souls, for Yeenoghu's corruption still needs cleansing. In the distance, what used to be the outskirts, kind of like far distant realm of a city called Goldenfields. So Goldenfields still several hours away. This is kind of the outskirts where the settlement started popping up. You're coming up the road and you see that this outskirt farmland, it did not escape the ravenous mongrel's path. Upon leaving Waterdeep, you were told that several religious types native to Golden Fields left in the middle of the night. You were told to keep an eye out for them. Perhaps they were heading home on some foolish expedition. You now slow down your pace to see if there's any clues or any enemies lurking. As you do, you look through this war-swept small community, thick muddy grounds, heaps of bodies, burnt wagons and carts, the signs of battles, arrows, weapons, fallen soldiers from both gnolls, humans, and every race you can imagine. There's the smell of death and rot, burning bodies and burning wood. There's a shallow wind as debris is blown across the dirt. And you hear the faint sounds of fire from the war still crackling, burning away. What is everyone doing as they walk through this horrible sight?
Cadence is, as she'll probably be roughly at the back of the group as we are making our way through the debris and detritus of war. She's got this leather-bound book that she's examining. She's like flicking through it every stop from turning the pages back. There are these rough hand-drawn sketches in it. And eventually she's looking at the diagrams in here, then at the wreckage, and seeing that they line up. And she'll take a moment to sort of bolster herself slightly and say to the rest of the group, well, definitely looks like Gnolls were here. What should we do?
Ahead, Varia is staring out across the countryside as she gazes upon the fire eating away at this world that was once lush and beautiful. The fire almost reflects in her eyes as she blinks once, twice, and she remembers the sight of her home burning as Gnolls swept through her home village. She blinks again and she remembers them bursting through her house and consuming her family before her. She blinks again and she remembers the Gnolls swarming her and doing terrible things to her. And she thinks about this process being repeated countless times again and again across this countryside. And she blinks and shakes her head, and she realizes she hasn't been breathing the whole time, and she sort of lets out a and as her ally begins to speak, she kind of refocuses and looks back at the question of what should we do, and she says, well, keep an eye out, see if there's any survivors, and make sure there's no Gnolls still alive. You know, standard mop up. And she sort of coughs and kind of just clutches her holy symbol of Lathander a little bit closer.
Yeah, definitely. Laura, I'm not. Are you sure Gnolls came this way? Because I can't see any traces of them. I'm looking around. I can't see anything. At least my dad's book's not helping.
Laura looks around. She's seen devastated landscapes before, so it doesn't really affect her like it should. She sees Cadence, and she sees Varia, and she sees Darty, and yes, we should keep a lookout for survivors. We should also keep a lookout for Gnolls. They may not have been here recently, but I imagine they're still around. We must always keep on guard, unless we care to join those dead.
Yeah. You know, Dad always made it sound so adventurous, you know, like chasing after Gnolls, slaying them, and yeah. Luckily, the big dude's, you know, not going to come and attack us. he should be. Okay. And she's going to just shut the book with a slam and begin to look around, see if she can sort of examine any of the wreckage a bit more to try and find any gnoll prints or something.
Yeah, so as you guys kind of slow your pace and start to look around, everyone can give me a perception or investigation check. Anything else that you guys might want to do, go ahead and speak up.
I hope this is a good sign, because my first roll was a natural 20.
Hey, nice job. And then anyone else that wants to, obviously 20 is pretty high, but anyone else that wants to throw what they rolled?
A kingly 9 on
Nice.
perception.
Nice. A bit distracted by the war stories of your father, perhaps, as you look
Yeah,
through this.
Definitely. She'll have been sort of like reading a passage and then look up and sort of like take a moment and look and go, oh no, it's just a bit of timber that's fallen, or it's just a gnarled cart, thinking she's seen some sort of like gnoll behind it.
So Varia, as you're walking through, everyone's kind of checking over the place. The war definitely seems like it came through this area a long time ago. Most of the bodies are eaten to the bone, typical for what gnolls do, eat until they can't eat anymore, and then continue to eat, gnawing on the flesh of living foes. Just absolute horrible sights to see. And as you're going through and you see these old bones, broken arrows, the signs of battles that have passed probably long ago, you come across one young adult looking male who, half face down in the mud, is wearing this brown robe, and on his backside a big claw mark raking through some type of insignia. You reason that this is fresh. Looks like he's only died maybe even a few hours ago.
Varia, throughout this whole time, as she's been looking over the devastation of this war-torn countryside, has been making, small little gestures of blessings from Lathander, but she sees this young lad in the dirt, and she walks over and she kneels down, and he's face down, right?
His face is kind of like to the side, but buried in the mud. Like there's like an impression of a claw that has slammed his head into the mud and then raked down his backside.
Varia turns his head and sort of examines him. He's no older than 16.
Sounds right to me.
She sighs and she gives a blessing, and she just slowly takes her gauntleted fist and just hovers it over his eyes. And he turns towards his companions, and he says, "There's nothing heroic about this. It just is." And she lifts this poor sod out of the mud and sort of pushes him off to the side, give him some more dignity in death. And she says, "The only thing we can hope for is they've all gone to a better place. Let's keep moving. No need to dwell on this." And she sort of starts marching ahead single-mindedly.
All right. And Darty, I seen that you just posted an unnatural 20 investigation, right? So as she's moving forth and kind of going past to see if they can find anything else, with your investigation, you notice a couple of other things beyond what a perception check does. You notice that the symbol on this poor boy's back is the symbol of Chante, the goddess of harvest and growth. You notice that he was running towards you guys. If you look at the direction that he was heading to Waterdeep, opposed to most of the battle seeming stagnant or heading in the direction that you guys are heading. You see that he was heading towards you guys. And last but not least, you see more impressions that signify that he was not alone, but the gnolls very uncharacteristically dragged away, at least by your count, 2 other people. Now, everyone knows, fighting the gnolls for 4 years, that taking prisoners is extremely uncommon for them. But Darty, only you see this right now.
Sure. Could you just repeat or write the name of the goddess that you just said?
Chante. I'll type it in the chat.
Okay.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but deal with it.
Sure. So, yeah, Darty would be listening to everyone talking, and he doesn't care about all the dead. He just cares about Gnolls, and there are no Gnolls here. He looks at the body, and maybe initially he's just not really searching for anything, but then he sees the symbol of Shantae, and he just says, "Nothing will grow here anymore." And then looks at the marks and the Gnolls, they took someone. This is where we're going. There are Gnolls, there are prisoners. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I don't care. But you guys want to save people. I want to kill them. Let's go. Let's go there. And he points to whatever direction he thinks is the right direction. Not really asking if this is the right thing to do. But there are things to kill, so he's going there.
Lura kind of looks down at Darty and semi-admires his bloodlust, but at the same time, not exactly sure if it's called for at this time. He looks down at the body, she looks down at the body, and notices that he was going the wrong direction. And then Darty points out the information. And she wonders why Gnolls would take prisoners. It's not their style, it's not their habit. And something unique must be going on here. And anytime Gnolls are up to something unique, it means trouble.
Varya overhears this and sort of turns back, and she looks in confusion at Darty. She doesn't know what to think of this strange, hyper-violent gnome, but the idea of Gnolls taking prisoners throws her off, and she says, "Well, that can't be right." And she walks over and examines the body more, and she examines the tracks, and she turns to Laura and she says, "Have you ever had any experience with, maybe not Gnolls, but those who worship demons taking prisoners?"
I've had one experience with Gnolls taking prisoners. It's not an experience I'd like to reminisce.
And perhaps we should hurry. If there are people to save. And she looks off in the distance towards the city, and she says, "Perhaps this may be a noble cause after all." And she kind of nods to her companions and says, "Let's get ready." And she starts prepping.
Absolutely. And if there's nothing else that really needs to be checked over with the or deceased young man, you start to head in the direction that he was obviously running from. Something chasing him, presumably Gnolls, and then carrying away whoever he was with. Troubling indeed. You begin to set your journey. It seems like he was running from where Golden Fields actually is, which is where you generally are heading anyways. The nondescript of this boy kind of matches the description of who you were given to keep an eye out for, holy type from Golden Fields. I'll say that just offhand, no one needs to make a check to know that there was a temple or an abbey once in Golden Fields called Harvest Home. And it actually was a temple to Golden Fields. So it's kind of connecting now that this boy and whoever else he was with went to Golden Fields, but now frantically were trying to get away from there. You head in that direction with a bit of haste, and as you're walking away, putting these outskirts behind you, you hear the sickening sound of some mass, some big form sucking into the muck. Just this suctioning sound, and then almost a vomit-like groan from some animalistic beast. You all turn around and you see a pile of dead bodies, few very small amounts of flesh rotting away even on these bones. But you look, and as you slowly peek, you see this massive, grotesque, bloated, canine-like animal, a hyena, but so grossly swelled, its stomach, looking like it's carrying maybe 12 infant hyenas in it, is just laying in the mud, sinking in, groaning and yelping in what seems like almost pain, but then it has that haunting hyena cackling laughter followed. You know, hyenas are infamous for following behind the paths of gnolls and feasting on whatever they leave behind. This one hyena in particular looks like it's been feasting for a while, as it's so bloated it can't even walk anymore.
Hearing this sort of horrendous sound, Cadence will have stopped, and she's staring with this morbid fascination at this bloated gnoll, a bloated hyena, and she begins to slowly walk towards it.
You take a step forward. Sorry to cut you off. Not getting too close.
Yeah,
you take one step forward, and as you take a step forward to like cautiously inspect further, its rib cage suddenly jolts upwards. As almost picture like an Alien versus Predator, a claw-like arm rips at its rib cage, and you hear the cracking of its bones. The hyena yells out in pain, but then begins cackling this laughter, this maniac laughter over and over again. As you're looking at it, it's swelling, sucking in and out, growing and then shrinking, and then another claw-like thing will come and rip at its rib cage.
And as this happens, like Cadence, as you do naturally, let out just that scream, and she'll have a bit of her foot will get caught on a bit of carcass or twisted root, and she'll stumble backwards, falling on her back, landing in the mud, and she begins to like panic, crawl back, just keeping her eyes fixed on the horror that's happening before her, and she's just like screaming out, trying to get like help.
Varia runs to you, Cadence, and she sort of like kneels down in front of you and puts her shield up, and she sort of like grabs your shoulder and she says, "It's all right, I've got you." And she looks back, and for the first time, she kind of sees what's happening. And DM, would I know what is going on right now in my experience of fighting the gnolls?
Give me a, what do you reckon? What kind of check do you want to do? I usually throw it to my players if they want to do a certain check, and if you can make sense of it, I'll allow it. But I'm thinking probably a history check, maybe. History on
history. Okay. Cool. If it's like this seems pretty unholy. Would I know this through religion?
Yeah, I'll perhaps give it to you. Yeah, we'll see what you roll. It might be a bit different, but we'll give you a religion check here.
Okay. That is going to be a 15.
15. So you remember faintly hearing in your studies, obviously as the war came, it became maybe prominent in your temple of Lathander or whatever to obviously study the enemy. So you remember hearing tales of how Yeenoghu birthed the first gnolls onto this plane, and you heard the weird, almost like childlike nightmare stories of how he would just feast animals into like this ravage and hunger until they ate until they could literally explode. And as you're remembering this, finally this hairy arm rips from the stomach of this bloated hyena and grabs onto the top of its snout, reaching over the top of its nose and grabbing onto its jaw, and it starts to rip the jaw of the hyena open more and more and more, and you start to hear the hyena's jawline rip and flesh tearing, and then suddenly coming out from the mouth of this creature is a canine-like beast, flaming red eyes, covered in gore and blood. A gnoll rips itself from this bloated hyena. You witness, probably for the first time, the unholy birth of a gnoll. It comes crawling out and instantly turns around and grabs a chunk of this hyena. It rips it out and starts devouring it. Within seconds, it's torn away half of this creature that it just bursted from, and its hunger is not sated. It looks up and it stares at you, Cadence, still on the ground, and it just wants nothing more than to devour you. You can tell.
Arya turns to Cadence and says, Cadence, if you've ever wanted to know where a gnoll comes from, there you go.
And she's just like, her eyes just, she says nothing, just flicking between Varia and this unholy birth of a gnoll, and just like she's gone sheet white, and just begins hyperventilating.
The gnoll starts to step forward, at first shaky on its legs. Its claws sink into the mud, but then another footstep, and then another, and it quickly starts to find its footing as it moves quicker and quicker towards you, Cadence.
She sees this, and like her instincts begin to kick in, and she is like, her hand just like finds the pommel of her father's sword, and she looks back up at Varia and says, "We've got to do this. We've got to kill it."
Varia nods and says, "Go to the right. I'll go to the left. We'll surround it."
Yeah.
And Varia will look back to her companions.
I'll take the middle,
All right.
Lurda says as she draws her sword and shield.
Describe to me, guys, what it looks like as you four take down this single gnoll. It's obviously no foe alone against you four. Describe to me what it looks like. Anyone can take it.
The first sort of maneuver is quite clumsy. These four haven't really worked together that long. Varia swings round to the left, very practiced. Cadence follows to the right, quite clumsy, still her training wheels on. A longsword finds the back of this gnoll's calf as another one pierces through its side. Another sword comes straight down the middle and pierces through its stomach. How would Darty contribute to fighting this gnoll? I'm not entirely sure what their area of expertise is, Nicholas.
Darty seeing this would be horrified, but wouldn't say anything, and just look at it and understand how terrible these creatures are. And he sees everyone fighting with such grace, or at least they try to, and he's just enraged. He runs to the gnoll and waits for everyone to do the things, because this is just one gnoll. And after the gnoll is already all beaten up, he just takes out his cane, takes the rapier out, and starts stabbing it over and over and over and over and over again, laughing and killing it. Even if when it's dead, he's just stabbing it.
And as you're going like mental on the now corpse of the gnoll, Cadence will just put a gauntlet hand on your shoulder and go, whoa, that's enough. It's dead. Let it die.
You never know. Look at those. Maybe there's another one inside this one.
And as you say that, several stab wounds in this horrible creature's head, and you say it's dead. Leave it be. One sickening thing you see is the creature clearly slain, gashes all across its face, one of its eyes completely taken out. Even in death, its muscle memory, its jaw is just clamping over and over again, chomping at whatever's at its feet. It's sinking into the mud. It's chomping into pieces of wood. It's just continually eating even after death. And after a couple moments, maybe Darty stabs it a few more times. You step back and he's covered in muck and blood. You're covered in blood. This creature is absolutely torn apart. Slowly, its jaw closes one more time. It's been slain. You go ahead.
Well, I suppose at least you're enthusiastic, Darty. And she'll just like wipe off the viscous black blood of this gnoll in what's left of the grass. And she's what I'd like to do is I'd like to sort of look at the area, cross-referencing with like the notes on gnolls that Cadence has, and see if she can sort of tell if there could be any others lying in wait, or trying to see if there's like an origin point of them.
So that sounds like to me, going through your notes. Let's see here what we got. Maybe it sounds intellect based to me. Maybe a history or a nature.
Yeah, I'll go nature. Ooh, that is nice. That's 19 on the die, so that is a 21.
Very cool. So through your studies of maybe the war and the notes that you have, the warband definitely passed through this area, but it was many months ago. And the warband itself, the ravenous mongrels, were scattered every direction. This warband was absolutely massive. We're talking millions of gnolls all gathered around one demon lord, and it was just mostly devastated. But obviously that amount of evil is not slain, so they just kind of scattered. Now, what's troubling to you is that this birth of this gnoll is a telltale sign that they're reconsolidating. Gnolls breed like insects or an infection, and it happens quickly. It happens in days. As long as there's something to eat, something driving their hunger, they will breed. And before you know it, 5 gnolls will become 20 gnolls. 20 gnolls will become more, and they'll continue forward, devouring whatever they can. So this is a sign that the gnolls are not necessarily retreating, but they are breeding.
And Cadence will relay that information to the best of her ability, saying that we need to follow the corpses, because these things they're not born like normal creatures. They infect the host. Then, as we saw, it just sort of ruptures, and then there's a gnoll there, and we need to continue down this path, because if those 2 people are still alive, we need to save them from that sort of fate, because I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And she'll begin to sort of like motion to the party to sort of walk forward to their eventual destination.
Laura agrees. We need to get to those people and save them if we can. But first we need to ensure that no more gnolls can feed on what we just left behind. And she ignites her sword, plunges it into the center mass of this dead gnoll, and waits for it to catch on fire.
It lights up surprisingly quick, almost like dry hay, just and burns heavily. Dark flame kind of erupts from it, and even blacker smoke. The stench of this creature is even fouler than when it was born, but it quickly burns away to just bones.
Don't feed the enemy.
Go ahead.
Cadence, you'll feel the gauntleted hand of Varia on your shoulder as you're kind of walking, and you feel yourself stop as Varia looks at you and says, "Are you all right?"
Yeah.
It looked like that was your first time.
Well, yeah. It's it's a bit different, The training dummies, they don't really make that sort of noise.
Training dummies don't really do that in general.
Yeah.
She sort of chuckles.
I'll be fine. I've got my dad's book, and it's gonna help. And we'll be fine. I suppose we should help burn the bodies. And she, not making eye contact, trying to to deliberately dodge your question, she ignites up a torch, and begins to burn the whatever sort of corpses are around.
Varia
Absolutely.
shakes her head knowingly, and then, not wanting to press the issue, kind of helps along, all the while kind of looking out of the corner of her eye at Darty, who I assume is just impatiently waiting for us to head off, just sort of disturbed by how he's taken the whole war, but not willing to, make an enemy out of this seemingly useful ally for the moment, as she sort of pulls out her sword and picks up a rock and just starts just sort of like sending sparks on a couple piles, just getting a fire started, just burning up their food sources and blackening the skies with their ash.
What Darty would be doing is, now that he heard this very strange noise, Chris, I imagine that when he was birthed, when this hyena died, there was some kind of very unique noise that the Gnoll made, the first, I don't know, first scream that he ever made. And Darty would be using the spell Minor Illusion to mimic this noise over and over again to have it just right in case he needs to use it. And it would be a bit disturbing, I guess, like over and over again. He's just doing it.
Perfect.
And maybe
give me a performance check to see if you can mimic it. That sounds really haunting and creepy as fuck. Let me know what you roll.
A natural one.
Natural one. So it's definitely haunting and creepy at that. It's probably more than anything disturbing to your party members. They're going around burning this, and you're just trying to, like, if there was any way to make it sound any more disturbing, you somehow mastered it. But it sounds with that roll, you can't really get it. It's just too ungodly of a sound. Just the flesh ripping and the yipping and cackling laughter of these beasts. It's just you have a hard time mimicking it. Good try though. But with that, as you're lighting the bodies and whatnot, luckily for you, there's not a whole lot left. Like I said, the warband ravaged this place months ago. So besides this boy that they for some reason left behind, which is even stranger perhaps, that they left him behind, there's not a whole lot to burn. So you maybe burn that young acolyte and check to make sure that there's no more hyenas hiding in wait. There's not. And you start heading down the path that this road obviously follows. Golden Fields, still several hours away. You begin walking. I'm going to assume that everyone's good with what they wanted to do here before I carry on. All right. So you walk for several hours. I'm going to assume at like maybe a pretty hurried pace, but not compromising the integrity, not throwing caution to the wind. You're not darting across the prairies like a bat out of hell, but you're moving at a pace that is rapid enough to cover some distance. However, as the hours pass, it's still not enough to get to Golden Fields before sundown begins to happen. And in the distance, over these kind of long, mostly flat but waving prairies, you see a massive walled settlement. You know this is Golden Fields, and you know that the city was once basically like a farming capital, and it had these massive 20-foot stone walls that barricaded it in, and it was one of the leaders in like trade and export of wheat and corn and basically many farm goods. The city itself got early wind of the war coming and completely evacuated to Waterdeep, knowing that all was lost, standing against millions of gnolls. They knew to evacuate, so it was mostly empty when the gnolls came, but it did not stop them from destroying this city. You see the walls, once massive, thick, 20-foot high stone, many of it torn down completely as the gnolls used their savage sieging machines that they had in the war to rip down Golden Fields. You approach it, and as you start to get closer and closer, the sun fading just ahead of you as you do so, you enter the main kind of what once was gate of Golden Fields, but now is just rubble. You look ahead and you see dirt paths and massive fields of burnt and trampled, what you could only assume corn and wheat, but now it's nothing but mud. There's no bloodshed. It's eerie. It's like the entire place was ramshacked and destroyed, but they just did it just to destroy it. It's just Gnolls' nature to destroy and devour everything, even if there's no reason behind it. You look, and this once beautiful farm city is now just dirt and mud and trampled vegetation. You look around now as the dark begins to fall over the city, and you see the occasional makeshift encampment. You hear the yipping and howling of hyenas, and as you look at the horizon of the city, it's a pretty large city. You see small figures kind of quickly darting around. They don't seem to pay any attention to you at the gate. It's not like they're stationed on guard, but you definitely hear the screeching of laughters and yips. In the center of this town, you see what looks like a walled abbey. And from there, a massive fire is blazing in the center of it. It looks like the abbey itself is the circular shaped stone wall with an open kind of air worshipping area in the center of it. So basically like a donut, a stone donut. And in the center of it, there's this massive tree that's been toppled and dead and lays sickly drooping over some of the broken stone in behind this abbey. But a massive fire is glowing. You can't see the flames, but you see this unnaturally dark flame swelling up and going into the sky. And it almost seems to be causing more darkness than the night itself. You're a good distance away from this. I wasn't going to take that away from you guys, how you want to approach. But you see this like mushroom head of black smoke just swelling out from this abbey.
Well, leave it to Gnolls. They're not one for subtlety. I think I know where we need to go. She nods towards the column of unholy fire. And she says, well, I think we need a plan. And she sort of like gathers everyone together. Varia says, I'm not one for subtlety myself, and she sort of ping ping hits the very obvious full plate armor she's wearing. But I can provide a distraction if anyone wants to sneak through. And she looks around to her comrades.
That could be a good idea. Well, hold on. And she takes out her father's journal and begins flipping through the pages, and she finds this page of notes. And she lays the book down on the ground and takes out this little wooden box filled with these different sort of like ochre pastes and like spices, and she begins sort of like mix them in her hand, like adds some spit to it and like mixes it, and then just sort of like begins working it in her fingers. And as it does, it begins to glow this deep purple light. As I'm going to use my primeval awareness ability as a ranger, I'm spending a spell slot, first level spell slot. So for the next minute, I can sort of tell how many types of my favorite creature are in a 6 mile radius of us.
Very cool.
And my favorite creature is, funnily enough, Gnolls.
Get out of town. Who would have guessed?
Who would have thought it?
All right, so as you do this, you just kind of become in tune with the surroundings around you, almost feeling the earth, and you hear in the distance the sudden like almost like tremors of each footsteps, and you feel the life forms around this area. You count around the perimeter of this abbey, maybe about 5 or 6 hyenas. I'm going to say they're kind of like native or like brothers to the Gnolls anyways. And then inside the abbey itself, you're getting a much bigger fluctuation of life forms. You're counting around, I guess not even around, you know specifically, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Around 12 other life forms that are definitely Gnoll based in the center of this abbey. That's where they seem to be congregating.
I've just read it doesn't say specifically how many,
Oh,
so
damn.
I'm gonna ignore that bit of knowledge. But
When I said 12, I actually meant 12 to 100.
oh, okay, got it. So there's about 100 gnolls there. She can feel almost like roots going through the ground from the points of origin, like stretching and twisting towards her. She can feel these points of life energy, and she'll turn, sitting up fully. She'll turn to the rest of the group and say, "There's, it's hard to tell. The hyenas, they seem to feel the same to gnolls. I can't tell. There's some outside and there's some inside. I don't know what is what though. So we're gonna have to be on guard. If you are making a distraction, Varia, someone's got to stay with you. We can't leave you there on your own."
And Varia kind of, well, if someone wants to stay with me, that is, I'm perfectly fine doing this, providing a distraction myself, unless. And I turn towards Darty. Our little gnome wants to help us out. Perhaps you can aid me.
What do you have in mind? I hit my chest and I don't have any armor.
Well, I do know their language.
I do know their language.
What one would call a language. And she says, I was thinking maybe walking into the lion's den and screaming how their demon prince can suck my god's dick.
I think that you walking there is enough. You can insult them if you want. A certain death, this is good. I will go wherever gnolls are. There is no need for other plans for me.
Perhaps I can put you on my shoulders and you can say whatever you want.
Now, I am all for dying in a blaze of glory, like the tales say, but if I can take more gnolls, that would be better. So, let at least be a little bit smart. I am thinking we can distract by making some strange noises, imitating them, making them come out. Does anyone has a bow or something like that? A ranged weapon on the group?
Yeah, I've got Cadence will have this almost looks like an antique bow. It doesn't look like it probably should be used for combat. Looks more for form rather than function. But she's got that sort of like slung around her.
Laura's got a crossbow. I think it's a light crossbow. But she also can cast magic missile if need be.
As you guys discuss, the explosion of sound comes from Jackson's side. I don't know what that was. Sorry, bud. So yeah, sorry, I lost my track there. As you guys are discussing what to do, you almost on cue hear a scream of a girl coming from the abbey itself. And as you hear this scream kind of echo out in the night, you hear it followed in reply by the yips and howls of glee from gnolls and hyenas alike.
Okay, we've got to move fast. Right. So, Laura, you and I, we're going to go round that way. We'll keep low and we'll try and get as close to the abbey as possible. Darty, Varia, if you can sort of make that noise now, that would be brilliant. And she's going to sort of grab Laura's wrist and begin sort of like pulling her towards like bits of broken masonry and upturned carts, trying to duck and weave through and under this wreckage, trying not to get seen.
Absolutely.
Laura follows along, dodging and weaving as she moves along, trying to stay out of any kind of light that might be coming down from that massive fire in the middle of the abbey, and following Cadence to make sure that she doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah, the smoke itself actually is even blackening out the already blackened sky. As you guys start to dart towards the sound, you notice that the surrounding outskirts of this temple, there's several stone cairns, these tributes or whatever, like piled up stones in the shape of like humanoid-like figures that are casting these weird shadows against the dark clouds that burn from this abbey. And as you're rushing forward, I'm not sure if the other guys are staying back. We'll give you a second to do that. You kind of find makeshift cover between stone pile to stone pile, but there's just this unshakable feeling that something's watching you as you go through. Those moving forward, if you want a stealth check, now would be the time to do so. And Darty, if you're making a weird Gnoll-like noise, or if Varia is staying back, now is also the time to say what you guys are doing as Cadence and Laura move forward. Go ahead and do your rolls and say what you're trying to do and what you're rolling. All right. Cadence with an unnatural 20 on the stealth is like the night itself as she sways from stone cairn to stone cairn. Not even a trace of her footsteps, not even a sound of any dirt moving as she does so. Laura's right behind her, also moving in the dirt, or moving in the night. Closer, approaching closer and closer to this abbey in the center of this town, the flame swelling even higher now for a moment. The scream cut silent, but the yips of these gnolls do not stop. They actually grow louder and louder as they start to bark and yip and howl in some kind of excitement. Something is climaxing in there. What is Darty and what is shit, I was doing so good, Varia doing? Are you following?
Darty was initially going to make that noise, but then he's thinking they're screaming so loud that no one would hear him. So seeing that his companions are just running stealthily and these gnolls are doing whatever the fuck they're doing, he just wants to disrupt it. So Darty is going to run as fast as he can to be I don't exactly know how the structure works, but the idea is to go in front of a door or something that he could see what's happening inside, but not too close from the gnolls, and then just scream like, "Do you know what is a good gnoll? A fucking dead gnoll!" And then smack his cane on the floor and down them or whatever.
So as you guys get closer, sorry, Jackson, you look like you want to say something. I'll let you say what you want to say before you guys get any closer.
Varia will follow her gnome companion and sort of get up and try to ready herself and sort of look in and see the general layout of what's going on near the bonfire. And she will basically just ready herself. She starts like pounding her chest a little bit, quietly to herself, trying to amp herself up to basically when a Darty, starts the distraction, to just bull rush in and just take on. If she can spot a leader of this group, she will.
Okay. So I'm going to say that you guys are pretty far out as you're moving in. And the reason I didn't necessarily describe this in detail is because you're pretty far out. But the city itself is obviously this massive barren wasteland. But in the center of it, almost kind of this haunting scene, is just this lonely abbey burning in the darkness, creating these dark smokes. You move in, the two ahead, Cadence and Laura, moving in stealthily. Quickly behind is the gnome and the Azamar. And you approach. The abbey itself is almost donut shaped, made of stone. The center of it is a worshipping kind of open air system, so it opens up into the sky, like I've said. The building itself is made of stone, and the walls are about 15 feet high. It's almost perfectly circular in the back end of it. So we're going to say that you're coming from the north. And in the front is this big wooden door that's kind of closed, and there's maybe tiny holes that can briefly, if you were to get close enough, look in and see what's going on. But the door itself is shut. And then in the back is this massive tree that once grew in there. Harvest Home was this abbey's name. It has fallen into the backside, the south of this abbey, and has partially broken some of the temple walls. but still hasn't sunk in the building itself. So it's just kind of drooping over. And as you guys approach quickly, I'm going to say that Cadence and Laura, you're able to get right up against this door because you're stealthing so quietly. And Darty is just about to get call out and cause your distraction, we'll say. But I'll say as you approach the door, you're looking at this wooden kind of gate that has closed across it, and you notice that there's like garlands, some kind of like festive streamers hung on it. But then to your horror, you see it drip, and you realize that it's not garlands, it's not a festive streamer. It's entrails and intestines and guts that have been strung across this gateway, making this horrible stench. You notice that they're fresh as blood clots are dripping down from it. You see that the dark smoke is billowing out over the wall of the center of this abbey, and you just hear the sound of what could only be described as animalistic ritual savagery, the sounds of chomping on flesh, the yips and howls, and dancing around. Do we want to let Darty yell and cause a distraction, or do you guys want to peek in as you see cracks that maybe if you were to kind of look around, you could look in?
I would say so, yeah. Cadence would probably be like, she'd be crouching behind this bit of fallen masonry from the temple with her hand raised, not even realizing she's doing this, and just waiting, like looking in the direction where Darty and Vari are, waiting for that noise to pierce through the other howls before launching an action.
All right, absolutely. So, Darty, you're about to cause a big scene, but you see, do gnomes have dark vision actually?
Yeah, we do.
We do. So, who only... Wait, does Cadence have dark vision? No, eh?
No, she's human.
Okay, that's fine though, because you're close to the flame. Azamars have dark vision. Sorry, I guess I figured this out beforehand, but I'm kind of... Do Azamars have dark vision, Jackson? Just so I can understand who can see and who can't.
I am fairly sure. Just give me a sec.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I'll describe what Cadence sees because she's pressed up against the wall looking in. And as you look inside this temple, the foul smell that is coming across these dark clouds that, like I said, are blackening the area around you itself. It's almost casting this darkness-like essence of it. And you hear the howls of ecstasy from inside. You peek in and you see that this dark smoke seems to be coming from a makeshift fire pit in the center of this worshipping area where the uprooted tree once grew. You see furniture and wood and whatever they could have found thrown into this dark makeshift fire pit. You see a towering dark canine figure covered in gore, and as you look, you're entranced at what you see. You come into the climax of this sight and you see this canine figure dancing around, swinging the scythe that is covered in dripping guts and shit, and he swings it at a pace in a rapid clean stripe across the neck of a young acolyte girl. The poor soul has her stomach already cut open, and her guts and intestines are pouring out and actually wrapped around this scythe. And as the gnoll swings it across, you see that it pulls out more of her stomach's insides and it cuts across her neck. And the gnoll lets out another howl. The flame kind of billows as blood kind of splats into it, and he rips the girl into the fire. You see at that moment now that not only furniture is chucked into that fire, but other burning bodies, blackened and glowing with red embers. You see that there's one individual that is left. A man in a priest-like robe bearing the symbol of Chante. You see this canine shaman dancing around in ritualistic glee as he swiftly kicks this lifeless body into the flame. When one fluid motion, he grabs onto the priest's face, one scythe in one hand, opens up his mouth and tilts it to the dark sky and drips the blood and shit and guts of the slain friend into this man's mouth. He's crying and he's blood soaked from his left arm, but there is no arm there. It's just a stub. You look across and you see that other gnolls have circled around this shaman and are chewing on the remains, fighting over the left arm of this poor man. He's crying, sitting in his soiled robes blood soaked, and he looks up and tries to fight it, but he's no match for this towering beast of a creature. He opens up his mouth and pours the blood in. The man tries to vomit, but the gnoll closes his mouth and laughs in his face, saliva dripping down. He cries and then cries, vomits, but the gnoll doesn't let it escape. And inevitably, he swallows the ungodly, horrible gore of his friend.
Cadence will have been watching this, and Lura will see her eyes widen in shock, and what little color was left in her face drains completely before she has to look away, and she has to she's retching as quietly as she can behind this masonry, just like that. She's on her hands and knees, just staring into the dirt, now mixed with vomit, just trying to process what she's just seen. The text in the book she's got doesn't describe that. It doesn't say that they are that, barbaric and vicious and vulgar. And she wipes away whatever's left in her mouth, and she looks up at Lura and she says, "We have to get in there. We've got to stop whatever's going on." And she glances over to where Vari and Darty are waiting for the signal.
I imagine at this, Darty is growing quite impatient. What is he doing? And sorry, also Varia, what are you guys doing as you wait?
All Varia does is she looks towards Darty and she looks towards the gnoll with the scythe, and she says, "I've got that one. Do your thing now. We can't make them do that again."
Sure, and Darty isn't actually going to say that good gnolls are a dead gnoll. He's seeing this. He was about to say something, and he just hits his head with his hand, which is like this is too much, and that's why he's just crazy, because this is 4 years of this. There's no sanity left, and he just looks at them and somehow tries to be as close as possible for them to hear, and he just in Gnoll or whatever their language is, saying "How do I join this club?" And look at them with a huge smile, just teasing them, and "This is cool. Come on, guys, I want to join you." And then I'm starting to laugh and I'm trying to imitate them, just so, because I'm thinking in my head, Gnolls really must hate whatever tries to be like them but are not them.
Oh, if I can. So it's at this moment, you guys didn't realize it. When you witness something so horrible, it kind of causes this white noise, and you didn't realize it. But then suddenly, as he starts making these weird noises and calling out to the gnolls, the sound stops, and that sound is the sound of the gnolls devouring flesh. And this ritual that they have going on was causing just a massive amount of sloshing and ripping and tearing and chewing. It's absolutely horrible. But as you finally hear this gnome behind you, Darty, call out, silence, true silence approaches. And the pack lord, this shaman who was carrying out this ritual, stops. He has the blood-covered, shit-covered gore scythe, and he slams it into the flames. Embers burst out momentarily. A big plume of black smoke follows. He looks by and kind of sniffs the air. You hear glumphing and the sounds of bipedal creatures dropping to all fours above you and darting across the top of the rafters. You look up and you see 2 pairs of yellow eyes gleaming down. You see this shaman-like gnoll, we're going to call it actually a pack lord, grab the man, pick him up by his throat. The man's crying, begging for help. Blood is pouring out of his mouth from being forced to swallow it, vomit, and he picks up the man, squeezes his neck till his eyes almost burst out, and then slams him into the flame itself. The gnoll turns around and picks up this massive bloody glaive that he had sitting beside him, slams it into the ground, and all the other gnolls that were feasting suddenly all stop. They all sniff, they all growl, and then they howl, for they just realize that fresh food has been delivered. I think at this point, Unless Jackson or Varia, you want to say something before I make you roll initiative?
At the moment of this Pack Lord grasping this innocent man, begging for help, Varia can stand this no longer. She says, "Screw this," and she just bursts in with her sword in hand, slamming against her shield, making loud pangs, and yipping in this horrid language that Yeenoghu sucks Lathander's cock in hell. And she runs forward, and she is going to cast Compel Duel on the Pack Lord. And this Pack Lord has to make a Wisdom saving throw, DC 14.
All right, let's do it. And then we'll everyone start rolling initiative, and I'll type it in the chat. DC, what? Sorry, he rolled a 15 natural, but has no wisdom modifier.
It was a DC 14, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry.
But she is just getting this motherfucker's attention, and she's barreling towards this guy.
Luckily for you, he looks pretty compelled to duel you anyways, as he takes his glaive and does a flourish, kind of twirling it around, drags it across the embers, scooping up hot embers that have pieces of burnt body on it, and he looks at you and throws it into the ground, and then, mouth dripping with saliva, stares at you hungrily. Let's get some initiative up in here. All right, let's do this. Give me a second. I'm actually using a third-party app, so I will keep track of initiative. Normally, people post the initiative kind of in the Hangout call, but since I have my own thing, I'll just kind of tell you, and then we'll go from there. So we have Jackson Varia on a 16. We have Nicholas / Darty on a 13. We have Laura on a 13 as well. And last but not least, we have Joseph / Cadence on a 15. All right, let me get these other folks up in here. The bad guys, the enemy. We're going to put the initiative numbers in. We'll do. And then one more second, guys. I apologize. There we go. All right. First up is Varia, actually, as this Pack Lord. You see this canine creature standing on two legs. He's dressed in ripped up rags and has blood-soaked bandages around him. He has this mane-like fur that is absolutely matted and chunked in blood, as if he's ripped into flesh and just never bothered to bathe himself. He has this one scar down his eye that has this cataract white eye that's bulging out of it, and just this yellow toothy maw that he stares at you with, ripped ears that are dog-like, and he has this massive glaive, and he's ready to fight you. What do, Varia?
Varia just charges down this Pack Lord and gets right up to him as she whispers to herself, "All right, Varia, time to die." And she swings her sword wide and just goes to chop at this dude.
Up way, my friend.
Alrighty. That is going to be a 24 to hit.
That will definitely do so against our friend. What's your damage?
All right, that's 20. That's 14 points of damage.
Nice.
And on the backswing, she just goes for again, and she's going to put a smite into this one, as her sword will glow with the power of a sun and just slash across his front.
Very cool.
Lovely. That is a 23.
To hit or damage?
Yeah, to hit.
Nice. Definitely going to do so.
All right.
Paladin math.
That is going to be 25 points of damage on the second strike.
Beautiful. That's disgusting. So you charge in, you slash across this creature, cutting open a wide gash. It howls out in laughter, pain. It enjoys it. You slash back again, radiant energy blowing forth from your sword, cutting into this beast. It's actually pushed back a bit this time, and this time it doesn't enjoy that radiant smite that comes across it. Opening it up, it howls and growls at you in anger. It is going to use a legendary action this thing has, and as black smoke is billowing out, you see that it's actually coming up now and filling the ground, the smoke itself kind of covering your feet, and as you all look down at it, it's like the smoke is moving unnaturally. It's almost kind of grabbing at your ankles. There's a bit of thickness to it. The creature stands in front of you, pushed back about maybe 5 feet, and it looks at you and laughs, and then suddenly its form just completely poof disappears, and then before you know it, it's behind you. It lets forth 3 strikes. Let me just make sure before I get too ahead of myself. It makes 2 strikes. All right. So it's at that point that it tries to hit you, and it will come across with its glaive, rolling a 19, which I believe is a miss on the first strike. And then second strike, also a miss. You meet it with your shield. The sparks kind of fly off you as you do this. Both times pushing it back, it howls out in anger. And then it's at that point that we will get Cadence to follow up as Varya and this pack lord engage in combat. Sparks and blood fly. What do you do? As you look around the room, you see all horrible shapes of gnolls, some that are ripping away at flesh, still hanging out from their mouth, their yellow and red teeth. You see 2 gnolls perched above on the stone perimeter wall above you. They have these bow and arrows down there and their dark cowls kind of looking over with their beady yellow eyes. And then worst of all, you see a pack of 5 gnoll skeleton bone creatures that you would know as witherlings. Gnolls that have been defeated or actually eaten by their own kin in combat. But when a gnoll dies, its service is not done. It's brought back, the bones carried to Yeenoghu and brought back through ritual to serve as slaves, these undead skeletal creatures. You see that these gnolls have 5 of them with them. So the room is full of party people.
Cadence is going to, she quickly scans the room and sees all the threats. In my sort of head, it was like this big sort of archway into the temple, and Cadence is up against the pillar, almost like a tower. That's sort of crumbling, and what she wants to do is she'd like to try and climb up to the top of that so she's got a vantage point.
Give me an acrobatics check, and I almost forgot a very important thing as I did that. This would have been not as quite fun for me. As you're doing an acrobatics check, you see that the 2 scars that you ripped across this beast, Varya, start to sink and heal up. As the smoke crawls up this beast's chest and kind of covers it, the smoke dies away, and you see that parts of the wound have vanished. He's not completely healed by any means, but he seems to have some regenerative properties, making it more interesting. What was your acrobatics check?
I got a natural 20, but a total of 22.
You literally parkour the shit out of that.
Yeah, she like
you're up there, and as you're up there, you see that there's 2 gnoll hunters in black cowls. They're the ones that seen you with the beady eyes, and they're basically the way you come up. You're in between both of them, but there's a distance of about 10 feet between each of them from you. So you're in the center, and then 10 feet away on your left and right are these hunters that are down on all fours at this point, bows on their back, and they're snarling.
Okay. What should actually, I'll see. Okay. What she's going to do is she's her hand instinctively goes towards these 2 pommels. She's got her father's longsword on her left, and there's this this dwarven style sort of battle axe on her other hip, and she goes to draw them both, but looks between these 2 gnolls, and instead of rushing into combat, she pulls this little flask off of her belt and just smashes it onto the ground as she casts Fog Cloud.
Very cool.
Creating this 20-foot radius sphere of thick, billowing, like purplish black smoke. which will last for an hour as long as they don't hit me, and I fail a concentration check.
All right, so you just disappear. So black smoke emanating from this fire, you cause your own kind of thick purpley smoke that billows out and completely engulfs you and 20-foot radius, the other two gnolls above you. The smoke kind of billows down a bit into the center of this worshipping area too, now desecrated. Anything else from Cadence?
That will be it.
All right. Then, before we get off to the Witherlings, the Pack Lord, obviously a special lieutenant of Yeenoghu, makes another legendary action, and he's going to try to attack you again. Varia, yes, that's who he's fighting. I keep almost slipping on that. This time, scraping across you for 21 to hit. I believe that gets it done this time. All right. You take 10 slashing damage. As you do this, the Pack Lord striking across you, the other gnolls surrounding it howl in excitement as their lieutenant is fighting ferociously. The gnolls in a 10-foot radius of it, which are actually the 3 rippers, are going to, as a reaction, move towards you and start clawing. This Pack Lord incites anger and hunger, and 3 more of these beasts are going to come swiping down at you. These flesh rippers, they're called, attack 3 times a piece. So for this, since there's so many of them, I'm going to be handling it with handling mob rules instead of making like fucking 9 or 11 rolls or whatever the math is on that. It's probably pretty basic. So that means that a couple of attacks are going to get through on you with the 20. So you are going to take, as 3 of these flesh ripping creatures, skin dripping from their mouths, come forth with these rusty short swords. You take 9 more damage on top of that, as I rolled pretty abysmally on the attacks. Then that puts the Pack Lord's legendary action away. The Witherlings are now up, and you hear the rickety kind of scraping of their bone-on-bone joints as 5 of them head forth and basically meet the party at the doors. So Darty and Laura are the ones standing there. They move past you, Varia, you being completely flanked by these flesh rippers and Pack Lord, and you're going to get 2 attacks onto Laura and 3 attacks onto Darty from these creatures. So I'm going to do Laura first. And your AC, my friend, is 20 with a potential of higher, right?
Yes.
Okay, so first attack, definitely a miss. Second attack, definitely a miss. And then 2 more for you, since these creatures both attack twice. Your armor or whatever you're wearing has no problem parrying their abysmal strikes, as I rolled below 10 on all of my rolls there, no joke. And then
just bashing them off with my shield.
Yeah, they're skeletons, their frail bones kind of swiping at you, but you're bashing them away. Darty, on the other hand, has 3 of them come up on him, and they're going to start attacking. This time rolling a miss, a 15, which I believe gets through Darty. And then 3 more, or a couple more waves to get through here. You take another hit, so 2 so far. And to finish off here, only 2 attacks get through, and you luckily only take a total of 7 damage as these bone skeletal creatures, ghostly remains, undead servants of the gnolls, attack into you, biting away and slashing away with their makeshift weapons that they have. That puts up next Laura. You're suddenly engulfed by these skeletal creatures. You look forth and see Varia engaged with the Pack Lord and 3 other combatants. You notice that a cloud of smoke has kind of started billowing down, met by or created by Cadence. What do you do as the battle is purely starting to hit the fan now?
Laura's there, and she's got her shield up, and she's just batting away these skeletal creatures as they try and get through her defenses and just fail. And then she sees her turn to strike, and she pulls out her rapier and ignites it with this green fire, and then she just starts slashing at them almost faster than the eye can see.
Very cool. Let's see what happens.
Well, a 17 hit.
On these witherlings, they're called. Absolutely. Your target on the skeletal guys, if you can remember, is 12.
All right. So the one directly in front of Laura will take 14 damage.
All right.
And then the one, I guess that would be closer to Darty, will take 7 damage.
Nice. So your first strike comes through, 14 damage. Describe what it looks like as you just absolutely wreck this skeletal creature.
And she pulls out her sword and ignites it, and then she sees that the rib cage is just open, and so she jabs her rapier right through the rib cage. And then as the sword is on fire, the entire skeleton just bursts into flames and then collapses into dust.
And as it collapses into dust, all the gnolls around you, the witherlings, all heads sharply turn to them, and they go into a rampage as they use an ability that when a creature of their allies are reduced to 0, they can use their turn to take up half their speed and attack at you. So all the witherlings now surrounding you, 4 more, are all going to try to attack you. Let's see what happens. You have a high AC, and you're probably the best person for this to happen to. So far, haven't got anything done yet on you. There's a 23, which I will give you the opportunity to shield if you want. Do you want to shield that 23?
Yeah, I will go ahead and shield.
All right. Then that, as it comes through, you're batting away gnoll after gnoll as they suddenly just rampage, horde on you. And then one jumps up and its weapon just about to hit you. You know that you've been compromised. You have to chant this arcanic spell as a shield just kind of shimmers off you. Its blade just inches away from your face, bounces off. But the horde relentless hasn't ended up yet. As a couple more attack. This one missing again, bouncing off your shield, bouncing off your shield. It's blocking away. They're hitting in a rage, trying to get through, but they can't as you just withstand a fuckload of attacks. Nice. All right. Anything else? Or I guess that would be the end of you. Or anything else?
I got one more attack.
Go for it.
Yep. So the one that is partially on fire, Laura continues her attack on that one, and that will be an 18.
18 definitely hits.
And that 7 damage.
7 more damage. You're able to finish off a second one. Now, luckily for you, they all use their reaction, so that doesn't happen again. But yeah, that's you're able to finish off a second one.
All right, awesome.
All right, perfect. Oops, that is not what you did. All right, next up, Laura, your turn's over. Then the Flesh Rippers, which engage with Varya now. Commence, and they are hungry for your flesh. They each get 3 attacks each. So again, instead of rolling that, I'm just going to use the handling mob. So your AC is 20, and then just to tell you what I'm doing is they need to roll a 16 to hit you. So that means that for every 4, 1 attack's going to get through. So you basically take a total of only through that. What do we got here? Math. 3, 6, 9. Only 2 attacks get through. So luckily for AC, you're going to get hit for a total of 11 more damage, actually. They're getting through. And then the hunters are now up, and they are above with Cadence. And Cadence, you're completely engulfed in this smoke, right? So they can't see you. They are going to make a perception check to, I guess, try to sniff you out. These are pretty perceptive-like creatures. And I guess how would that work? I guess they would just try to find you. You want to roll a contested stealth check here? Because they're just going to basically start heading in your direction. And I'll give you the option to kind of like obviously confuse them.
Oh, okay. So that's a natural one.
Oof. So yeah, you hear them coming, and maybe you just kind of like trip over and fall, and then before you know it, with a 17 and a 18 on perception, they are able to find you in the smoke. Now, do you still get the heavily obscured benefit with them right on top of you? I believe you would, right?
Yes, because it's like this thick cloud, nothing can see through it.
Okay, so they're swinging at disadvantage at least. So they come in and they have short bows on their backs, but they're not going to use that. They pull out. Actually, they're going to try to straight up bite you instead. So at disadvantage, the first one rolls a 3 plus their modifier, obviously missing. He'll try to bite you again, and at disadvantage, that's a natural 1. And the second one going is going to miss again. And the second attack coming through, because of your smoke, actually, this one is a 17 to hit a lowest roll. So one attack is a 4. Hitting. And he chomps into you now, not able to use his bow for a total of 6 damage. But since he has an ally with him, and these gnolls themselves are particularly good at fighting, almost like a rogue you would compare it to, it's going to get an extra damage die on top of the damage that it has. And not a full-fledged sneak attack. They're not trained or anything. But you're taking, instead of 6, a total of 10 damage.
Ooh, okay. What's sort of like the first... She can hear the gnolls coming, and as she sort of stumbles back, tripping over some debris, she hits the dirt, and then the snout of a gnoll just like comes right at her, and she dodges and smashes into the ground. This happens a couple times as she's dodging, and then one of them faints, and just this maw crunches down on her shoulder. She screams out in pain, and I need to make a Constitution saving throw to keep the fog cloud going.
All right, perfect. Glad you remembered that, because I sure the heck didn't.
So that's another natural 1.
Oh. The smoke dissipates away as you're left with 2 hungry dog-like creatures on each side of you, one tearing into your arm. It lets go as blood kind of drips out from its mouth. It's tasted your blood, and now it hungers for you even more as the natural ones are real. Luckily, that puts up Darty. It's finally time for action. As your friends have darted in, you see withering skeletal creatures just attacking in a frenzy at Laura, but her shield is just repelling it, arcane energy. They've kind of left you alone now. What do you do as you look around and you hear the fights above you? You see the fights beside you. You see Varia in combat. What do you do, Darty?
So what I'm going to use is the fear spell, which actually does. I'm just going to check real quick. I think it's a 30-foot cone in front of me. So I would try and position myself somewhere that could affect most of them, at least the most that I can touch.
All right,
trying
so
to make them run away.
You can easily position yourself, and I'm going to say you could get all of the witherlings, which are currently 4 of them left, or 4 of them? Yeah. No, 3 of them left, sorry. And I'll give you the 3 flesh rippers that are fighting at Varia also. So they need to make what save, sorry?
So it's a wisdom saving throw.
All right, here we'll do the flesh rippers first. They are not the most wisdom-like creatures. So what's your DC?
Unfortunately, it's only 13.
Well, unfortunately, I rolled starting a 19, but then following with a 2 and a 1. 2 flesh rippers are frightened. I'll write that down. And now for the witherlings, 3 of them left. These guys are really not wisdom-based creatures. I rolled a natural 20, a 9, and a 1. So I believe only one of them is not frightened.
So what this spell does is, while they're fighting of me, they have to use their dash action, like on their turn, to run away from me because they're too afraid. So they just have to run away from me. And basically, I know that this is what I've been doing probably all the time when I fight them. Is then I try to cast this fear, and some of them would stay, and then I would kill them, and then like this all the time. And probably what the spell looks like is I hit the cane on the floor, and it says that it's supposed to put like something that they're afraid of, but I don't know what. Gnolls, or maybe unicorns and green land and happiness. And
Gnolls are afraid of running out of food and not eating in tribute to Yeenoghu. So maybe they start to see an absolutely barren wasteland, and this is horrifying for them because they need to eat like crazy to survive. So they start looking around, and instead of necessarily running away from you, they're running away trying to find food because they think they're going to starve.
So,
Anything else on your turn?
No, that's an action. That's all I can do.
Okay, so I want you, just in case I forget, to remind me on the Flesh Ripper's turn and the Withering's turn that they're frightened. Some of them are frightened. I have how many are frightened. You just remind me in case I forget. With that being said, we normally would have went to the top of the initiative, but just to add a little bit more fun to this encounter, because I just feel like there's just not enough going on, right? Like there's a horde of Gnolls, pack lords, blood and guts everywhere. I think we'll add one more thing. As from the center of the fire, you hear this bone-wrenching scream and the sound of crackling, burning skin, but also the sound of growth and mutation. You look forth, and the priest that was armless, thrown into the fire, is now standing, and his one arm is reached out, and he's yelling in pain. And as he's yelling, he's shaking, and you see his face begin to shift from a human's face to this long canine snout. It's burning. You see black embers and just torn away flesh. You see a sickly canine arm start to grow from his left stub. And this arm completely kind of grows out, and he reaches over and grabs onto the burning, desecrated scythe, and he holds it, and you hear the sizzling of his skin. But as he does so, the people around him, the gnolls around him, cheer out and yell and cry of absolute ecstasy. Those who speak Gnoll, it's not the most sophisticated of language, but one thing you hear is that Yeenoghu's child is here. You see this man has been horribly mutated into this half Gnoll, half human, completely 100% unholy abomination, as Yeenoghu's abomination shows up for the fun. He grabs onto this scythe that has been desecrated, and he dashes into the combat. The first thing that he does as the scythe begins to glow with embers does in a strike called the Abyssal Harvest. I'm going to need a dex save from Darty and Laura as he runs right past you, Varia, and gets up into them. And this strike actually is a bit of an AoE kind of spin, and you both need to give me a dex save.
19 on my end.
19 is definitely a save. 16 is your mark. And let me know what you rolled, Craig.
19 as well.
All right, so you take half of this damage as you see it coming, but it's hard to get out of the way as black energy is coming from this creature, and it's clearly enchanted with some unholy energy. You normally would have took 22 necrotic and slashing damage, but instead you take half of 22 on a successful save. Now that's just one of its attacks. As the witherlings are clawing and biting away at your shield, this abomination comes up to you, Laura, and it's going to try to make another one of its strikes. This attack just called Starvation, and he swings and rolls a 26 to hit. I shit you not. Anything else you can do? No? All right. Then give me a wisdom saving throw again.
Oh, rolled an 18.
Attaboy.
So 20 total.
What you see as he strikes into you is basically like this hive mind montage of all these gnolls in the world just feasting, eating and devouring, sickly, just gluttony, tearing into flesh and ripping. And you see sitting on a pile of these gnolls all eating into raw flesh, the prince of demons himself, Yeenoghu, this massive gnoll creature that is towering in size, and he stares down at you, eyes flaming, these massive flails in his hand, and he asks you to feast with his brothers. You resist the temptation to do so, but still take only 8 more damage.
8. Okay.
He then turns on you, Darty, and goes for a ravenous cut. This time rolling a 18 to hit, which I know does so. And you, Darty, take a total of, I'm rolling bad on the damage at least, 7 damage. That being said, the abominations turns over. Varia, you're back up. Now, as a free action on anyone's turn, clearly some fucking dark shit is going on here. So if anyone wants to kind of like try to find what the hell is going on, you can make a check. You just specify what you want to do, and I'll tell you what happens. And this will not cost an action. I'll be fair to you guys. I'm nice. I'm a benevolent GM.
On Varia will look around and gaze at this fire that seems to be the source of what this black magic is, and she's going to try to make a religion figure out whatever foul ritual this might be.
All right. Go ahead.
That is a 16.
16 is enough to, looking at the fire, realize that it obviously is a source of some dark energy. Maybe not the abomination itself, but you see that the Pack Lord itself seems to be drawing in a lot of this smoke, and you haven't really seen it take effect on the rest of the battlefield or not, but you do see that he is somehow harnessing this dark thick smoke that's around him, and it indeed is coming from the from this fire. Sorry, blanked out there.
From the spire?
Fire, sorry. The dark fire where the bodies have been turned into. You are absolutely correct in sensing that some dark energy is enchanting this battlefield through their ritual and blessing them with strength that they should not have.
I yell out, Laura, Dottie, someone fight the fire, fix the fire, it's the source. And then I turn towards this Pack Lord and just say, face my fire. And my sword will light up again, and I will just go to stab him for a smite.
All right,
second level. Natural 20.
Hey, that's a good time to roll natural 20.
How do you do damage on natural 20s?
I'll let you. It's more fun, I think, if you have the dice to roll it. Since you're going to be rolling a crap ton of dice, you can just roll double dice. If you don't have it, you can just roll. Yeah, just double your dice. So if you have, you're going to have a lot. But if you have 3d8, you roll 68 as an example, and then modifier once.
So should we take a quick break while Jackson's doing his...
Yeah, everyone go to the washroom, start writing a novel.
No, it's okay. I got a nap for this.
Nice. Yeah, this is going to be a buttload of damage.
Paladins are so cool.
Yep. Paladins love to crit.
Yes, we do. Ooh, okay. The modifier once?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's going to be 46 points of damage.
46? 46?
Yeah, and most of that is radiant.
All right.
I can try to figure out.
No.
But
describe what it looks like as you make short work of my Pack Lord.
I just say, face my fire, and I send it forward, and he tries to block it with his glaive, and it almost as if the holy flame of my sword touches his blade, causing it to almost detonate into dust, and it passes through, and through the dust, the Gnolls Pack Lord's, one of his blind eye and his regular eye just widen as I just send it straight into his face. And then I push it further all the way so that it comes through the roof of his mouth, and I just push further down. And I give him one last final feast of my righteous blade as I slam it forward, and holy flame explodes from his back as I just shoot this fire through him and burn him to a crisp. And I pull the blade out.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
And as you do finish doing that, every single Gnoll in the entire Abbey looks at you in absolute rage and anger. And since we're at the top of initiative now and everyone's reactions have refreshed, every single Gnoll in this place descends upon you in a horrible...
I will say I get another attack action.
Yep, you might want to do so. Yeah, I'll give it to you first, we'll say. And then they're going to reactionary just try to rip you to shreds.
All right, I pull out my sword and I swing it, and I just try to slice the head off one of these rippers.
All right, go for it. Who are no longer afraid due to the failed concentration check of Darty.
Hey, okay, that's a 24 to hit.
24 is definitely going to hit on a ripper.
All right, 17 points of slashing damage.
Nice. Not able to take out this one, at least. Luckily for me. Unluckily for you.
And then I just sort of like back up. I sort of back myself up near the fire, and I just sort of slam my shield like a Spartan, just ping, ping, come get some.
All right. And that is exactly what they do as they all descend upon you. Now, the Rippers are already on you. There are 3 Gnoll Witherlings left that will get Oppie attacks from Laura and Darty. So you guys can attack 1 each if you want. Let me know what you roll.
Lord does make hers 18.
18, definitely going to hit.
Nothing good.
8 damage.
8 more damage. Doesn't finish off the third one. What did you roll, Darty?
I rolled an 8.
That's not going to do it as you miss. And a total of 3, 6, 7 Gnolls, that of which is one of the abomination also, all come charging at you in this like horrific battle roar and march of just dust flying everywhere, mouths foaming. And this is a whole lot of attacks coming your way. So I think just the only way to handle this is by doing the handling mobs, even though it's not necessarily the funnest. I don't want to make you guys sit here and listen to me roll for an eternity. So you got coming forth a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 attacks coming your way. And I'm just going to round it to say that they're all swinging for 16s to hit. So they need 4 to hit each. So that puts me at bad at math, a total of 4 attacks getting through on you, which is pretty good considering the whole place procced on you. Your armor definitely potentially saving your life right now, as I imagine you're pretty strong. So here comes the damage. The Witherlings hit you for 11 damage. The Rippers are going to, and I'm only going to give you the 1 abomination attack instead of letting him attack you a bunch of times. 9 more damage on top of the 11. And then the last strike coming through, and I'll need a wisdom save from you. And then the last, so I said 9 and 11, so 20, and then 24 damage in total coming your way with a wisdom save.
19 on that wisdom save.
Well, your life is not any worse if you survive the 24 damage.
Okay, so that's 24 on top of the 11 and 9 I just took?
No, that's in total.
Okay, in total.
Yep.
I'm still up.
Hey, nice job.
I'm bleeding from every creak and crack in my plate armor, but I'm like sort of like smiling and spit out some more blood, and I'm like, is that all you got?
There's just a horde of Gnolls completely surrounding Varia. The only 2 that aren't are the hunters that are engaged on you, Cadence. They figure that you're probably the more tasty of targets. Cadence, you're up next as you want to help your friend, but you have your own Gnoll issues to deal with. What do you do?
Oh, okay. I'm not entirely sure. What Cadence is going to do, just like she's managed to get to her feet as these 2 hunters are bearing down on her. Are we standing on sort of battlements?
Yes, you're on top of battlements 15 feet high, and they're about maybe 5 feet wide, and there's 1 on each side of you, and you're kind of at the, I imagine at the front, so the north end of the gate, and then looking into the battlefield itself, which is southward.
Cool. And she just remembers watching her dad in combat, and he would make quick work if he was like surrounded using this sort of magical technique. And she draws both of her weapons using her dual wielder feat, a long sword in one hand and a warhammer in the other. I said battle axe earlier. It was actually a warhammer. I made a mistake. She draws them both, and they begin to glow with this white light as she says Ventus and casts Zephyr Strike as a bonus action at level 2.
Sounds cool.
So if I get advantage on one of my melee attacks this turn, and if it hits, it will do 2d6 damage on top of regular damage.
Nice.
So she's just going to dart forward, almost like a feint with the longsword coming up, and then but the warhammer just comes up out of nowhere, going from hip to up to a shoulder on the first gnoll, and I'm granting myself advantage on this attack. That is a 18 to hit.
Gonna do so on the hunters.
Sweet. And that is a d8 plus my 2d6. And one of the dice fell off the table, and it will never be retrieved again. So that is 14 damage in total.
14.
For the first attack.
All right, it does not take him down.
And then as the warhammer just like crashes up into the hip of this gnoll, the second the longsword is going to like dab forward, like lunging down towards its stomach. That's a 14 to hit.
Gonna do so.
Sweet.
Just barely.
This time it deals... What's that? 5 damage as it pierces through it. But it sort of sticks slightly, and the gnoll begins to reach forward and grabs her hand. And then just as these blades are glowing, she uses its ability to move without provoking opportunity attacks. So she just almost like blinks out of existence for a moment and reappears 30 feet behind it on the battlement, almost like stumbling back on the crumbling edge, manages to ready herself, and just in gnoll spits at them, "Come and have a go if you think you're tough enough." And that'll be my turn.
They turn around, both looking at you as you slip away. The one incredibly injured, just clinging on to life. The only thing it's holding on to is that the thought of just eating you, devouring you, is the only thing carrying it going, as blood is just dripping from its wound, dripping out of its mouth. The witherlings up next are now, I guess, incidentally, all sitting on top of Varia. So that's not necessarily how I had things planned in my mind, but they're going to attack nonetheless. And these creatures just kind of slam into you, missing. And the good old 20 AC is probably going to be your ally right now, as you're able to block all the attacks of the witherlings. They're pretty fragile creatures, so they're not able to do very much. Laura, you're up next.
From where Laura is, what would be the closest gnoll creature?
So the closest gnolls they all kind of packed in on Varia. So they're literally maybe like 20 feet away from you at most. And there's just a dog pile. She's kind of like standing on this mound, blocking like attacks of the witherlings and swinging around, and everything's cutting into her. She's 20 feet away from you, obviously in need of help, as you see blood start to flow from her.
Laura sees that Varia is in trouble, and so she immediately runs up to just the first gnoll that she can see, and she just starts just dazzlingly fast with her rapier, and as it burns with that green flame, nat 20.
Hey, there you go.
All right. So I know you just said, how do you work with...
Just double the dice. Modifier once.
18 damage.
18 more damage. You easily take out another witherling, cutting them down to only 2 left.
And then the fire jumps from the one that just fell onto the next one. And that does 12 damage to that one.
All right. That one clinging on to existence now. There is 2 left of these witherlings. One very badly injured, one relatively in good shape. Anything else left? I think you have another attack, right?
I got one more attack, and she's going to try, and she sees that one is down on its last leg, and hopefully she can finish it off with a 13.
To hit?
To hit.
Just does so on the witherlings.
Right. And that is 9 damage.
9 damage. 1 witherling left. As Varia, you're standing on this mound near the fire, fighting off a horde of gnolls. You feel blood ripping from or draining from your flesh, the stinging of the steel and the burning kind of sensation of these cuts. You feel yourself fading in and out of consciousness, as I imagine you're pretty close to being pretty hurt, I'm going to guess. And you just see in the distance Laura charge in. The witherlings try to turn around. She slays one. Green flame rips from her blade, dancing into the other, meets the flame with the sword, kind of cutting off another head. Your allies are coming to help you, but will they be there in time? As the Rippers are up next, and they are determined to rip you to pieces, and they will try their best to do so. Here we go. Jesus, so your AC is a beast. So there we go for 1 hit, 2 hits, and 3 hits. I'm actually rolling now because I feel like I'm ripping you off by just saying, hey, you get hit by this many, and it turns out I'm hitting you with even more now, so I apologize. I should probably stick to my guns. Here we go for damage. 16 more damage as you're doing your best to hold the line. If you can just hold off for a few more seconds, your friends will be here, and then you feel a cut from underneath your armor, and then another one, and then another one. They're frenzying on you as they feel your defenses weakening. You still hanging on with 18 more damage? All right, very good. The hunters are up next. One bleeding profusely from its stomach. You ask them if they are ready to have a go with you. They are definitely ready to have a go with you, Cadence. They charge in, one behind, kind of readying up a bow first. The other one dodges in, now pulling out a spear. He engages you in melee combat, attacking first for a 11. You kind of swing by. He flourishes past you, turning around. He swings the spear around again and tries to stab you in the gut in return, rolling a natural 20. So I'm going to need you to take, that's impressive. I've rolled 1 on damage so many times now. So one of my dice rolling a 1, you only take 7 mighty piercing damage from my crit. This guy, since he doesn't have an ally with him, does not get sneak attack, but the gnoll readies his short bow. Sorry, do you have something to do?
I meant to say, because I'm dual wielding, I now have a +1 to AC. So my AC is now 16.
Okay, let me go back and see what I rolled. I only hit you with the 1, right? The crit?
Yeah. Just to say, so like, she probably brings them both up, but used to parrying blades that are going down and not a spear, it goes straight through and just like pierces through the shoulder that's already been bitten.
All right, longbow with your AC being at a 16, it's 2 strikes. Both would have hit you normally, but now that you're in your fighting form, you last second chop away an arrow. He readies another one. You're ready to defend it, but that gnoll with the spear is harrying you, and this time you're going to take the damage as he rolls a 17 on his second strike, and this is going to get through some sneak attack damage as he deals. Wow, these damage dice are impressive. 4, 2, and a 1 plus modifier, so 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. As the hunters now are doing their best to take you down before you get the upper hand. Darty, you're up next, and as you look at the chaos that's going on, you ready yourself for some killing of gnolls. Your fear spell has dropped. You see the abomination circling around Varia, waiting for his moment to strike, and as he looks at the flesh rippers ripping her from pieces, taking off pieces of her armor and cutting, you see that he sees his opportunity is near, but not before you get to act. What do you do?
So I've heard her saying that there was something about the fire.
Yes, you can also do a check on anything else you want to. I guess we kind of passed that in the heat of the moment, but everyone's allowed to, again, do a check. The fire is obviously the source of this, but the abomination seems to be his own entity himself. Not born of the flame, but definitely imbued by something far darker and far more powerful than the flame.
I see. I would just like to see, I don't know if Darty would know, but if this is some kind of magic stuff on the fire, or would I have to do like putting the fire off with water or whatever the fuck I could.
What kind of check do you want to do? I'll tell you what you do.
So straight up, just like looking at it, and I don't really know how he would know it, but he uses magic, so maybe Arcana, looking at the fire and saying, is this magical effect, or is this just straight up?
Go ahead.
Fire, weird shit fire.
Give me an Arcana check. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So it's 18.
18 is enough to know that if you conveniently have like a dispel magic and maybe amp it up a bit, that would probably help you. But another thing that I will let you do is if you spend a spell slot of what does a bard have at level 7? Do you have access to a 4th level spell slot yet? You have 1 4th level. If you spend your 4th level spell slot, you can directly contest Yeenoghu's evil presence over this battlefield. And if you beat his dark energy, you will subside the flame and render whatever power it's giving, which I am continually forgetting to tell you. But the Gnolls, not the witherlings, but they basically flesh and bone, or skin and flesh Gnolls, are healing from this dark smoke every time their turn comes up. So the flame is obviously an issue, and you sense that Yeenoghu is powering this flame, and you can potentially contest his dark energy to stop that from happening. But if you fail, you'll make your presence known to Yeenoghu.
How would I contest that?
I will give you basically your strongest modifier, so your charisma plus proficiency, versus Yeenoghu's. But obviously you're spending your 4 spell slot, which kind of sucks because I'm sure you have something cool planned for that.
Not so much, but I mean,
does get rid of the fire, which is healing the battlefield over time, and it would have done a lot of cool shit for the Pack Lord if some mangy paladin didn't go around and crit it.
Yeah, this is the thing though. Darty looks at the fire and he sees that this is obviously a problem. And this is magic, and he has to fight it with magic. But at the same time, there's shit ton of people hitting his allies. And there's this weird creature lurking, and the fear effect hasn't worked. So he's thinking that this ending the fire will maybe it helps, but then if everybody dies and he's alone, there's no way he can defeat this by himself. The best he can do is try to hit and give the maximum damage that he can before dying, because he's thinking, I'm going to die, so whatever. So I'm actually going to attack the creature, this abomination creature, with my sword, my rapier. And I am actually a bard that is focused on melee damage from the College of Swords.
Very cool.
So yeah, I just rush in, take my cane, and try to hit at this creature. 21 to hit the first.
21 is going to hit him.
If you said no, then oh man, I would be scared.
Things would suck.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is do my damage, and with this college, I can use something called defensive flourish, which I can use my inspiration die to add damage to my damage.
All right, add it up. Let's see what you got. As this is the first time anyone's hitting the abomination, actually.
Yeah, let's see how much damage he takes, actually. So the first damage is going to be... Where's my character sheet? Oh, here, yeah. 7, it's going to be 9 plus... Oh, nice. It's 17 damage.
17 damage in total. Impressive. Yeah.
And this is... I have 2 strikes. This is the funny part. And the defensive flourish actually gives me plus 8 AC for the next turn, because I'm a dueling expert. So for the next turn, I have 23 AC in case he wants to try and hit me. And on the second attack, it's 17 to hit.
17 to hit is normally going to hit him, but he uses his reaction to parry it, boosting his AC up to 20 for the turn.
Yeah, seeing that this little gnome is not so, so little, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's initially ignoring me, and then after stabbing him, he's like, okay, maybe this is serious.
Yes, absolutely. He takes you seriously, realizing that your small form is definitely nothing to take for granted. Is there anything else left on your turn?
No, and first, that's all I can do.
He smiles with his toothy grin, saliva dripping down as he now realizes that you all have kind of joined him in the fight for his abyssal harvest, as he can position himself in a way to proc Laura, Darty, and Varia to make a dex save. As he gets in and just whoosh, dark energy kind of comes around as he's 360 spinning with the scythe. Give me a dex save. And your DC is 16 with this guy.
18 dex save.
17.
So on a fail of less than
17.
Oh, okay, perfect. On a success, everyone's taking half of 21 for a total of 10 damage. The second attack, as this guy makes 3 attacks, is he now sees Darty with his boosted AC and realizes that you're potentially a worthy adversary that needs to be dealt with also. He turns around and he's going to try to hit you with his starvation attack and rolls a natural freaking 20 on Darty. Give me a wisdom save as he hits you. And you're taking 16 damage. And if you roll less than a 16 on your wisdom, then you are currently paralyzed for the turn until the end of your next turn.
Then I am paralyzed.
And you are paralyzed.
With 1 HP.
With 1 HP. I believe that means that he gets to swing at you for advantage now because you're paralyzed. Let me just look up paralyzed really quickly.
Yeah, I think it's auto crit when you're paralyzed.
Oof. That'd be even worse. I don't want to cheese you though. I can look up. I can look it up pretty quickly. Give me a second here. I always forget conditions.
I've actually got it open here. It's they can't move or speak. They automatically fail strength or dex saves. Attack rolls have advantage, and any attack that hits is a critical.
All right. Well, good luck, Darty, as he swings at you again. This time rolling at advantage. A 22. What's your AC again?
23.
23? Whew! You dodge it then. And then that's his last
dodge. I'm paralyzed. That's so
I guess he somehow misses you just by 1 nick. And that was his 3rd strike. So you are magically alive at 1 HP. Nice job. He, however, has healed a bit on his turn from the black smoke, which still hasn't been dealt with yet. Varia, you're back at the top of it. You're clinging on to whatever existence you have left, knowing that if you can just hold off a little bit longer, you might be able to weaken their hordes. Your friends have joined into the fight. You see this abomination absolutely tearing apart Darty as he's just frozen in absolute fear. He somehow manages, maybe you kind of like bash the abomination over the head at the last second, causing him to miss on his last strike to finish off Darty. And now it is your turn. You're covered by Gnolls. What do you do?
This is a stab in the dark here, but is there... Could I judge if there was any way for me to just righteously smite this fire in any way?
Give me...
Like, get rid of the fire.
Give me another religions check here, because there might be something else that you kind of catch on to now being in close proximity.
23.
23. You look at this scythe that the abomination is wielding, and you have a momentary flash. I don't know how you know this. You tell me maybe how you know about High Harvest and Golden Fields. What have you heard? What in your life has led you to learn about this small city or this large city's abbey? And then I'll tell you what you know.
The Abbey itself, what I know about the Abbey?
Yes, because there's something prominent about this scythe and the Abbey that up until now you didn't remember, but now maybe just kind of seeing it in the light, your memories start to flash back of Golden Fields.
I remember I fled to Goldenfield when I was the only survivor of the attack on my village, and I was welcomed by the priest there, and he was the one who gave me the inspiration to become a paladin of Lathander. And I remember seeing this scythe in this abbey so long ago, and I was told of the importance of this weapon.
Absolutely. And you now recognize it as a weapon called Harvest Promise. And it wasn't ever necessarily meant to be a weapon. It was a scythe blessed by Chante, the goddess of harvest and growth herself. And basically, long ago, there was a plague that death sent upon the world, and it basically eroded all life, plant life, and started to decay away. Chante, wanting to fight this infection, blessed one of her holy champions with this scythe called Harvest Promise. And instead of actually combating death itself, the scythe was used to give life to anything that was dead. The scythe was left here as like an artifact and maybe told as like a child's tale for the longest time, but people forgot over the centuries that this is actually a true story. And now this scythe has been completely desecrated, and in doing so has entirely corrupted it and has basically absorbed some of Yeenoghu's strength and empowered it, taking such a holy item that was used for life and doing this horrible thing to it, taking life, causing death, has turned it into this abomination, this power, this weapon of Yeenoghu's strength. And you know that if you can somehow deal with this scythe, you will cripple this creature's this strength. The fire itself is one thing, but this scythe is powering their blood rage of all the gnolls, and it's powering this abomination. So not only do you have a dark ritualistic flame, but you have a desecrated holy item that is basically causing a thorn in your one side and a thorn in your other side.
So if I could take out this weapon, perhaps the flame, perhaps the dark magic might be taken away.
Definitely the core of this creature's strength. The abyssal harvest, the attacks that are causing these paralyzing strikes, the gnolls being in a blood rage and attacking so much are all caused just by the energy of this scythe.
I think for a moment, and I think about how I could apply lay on hands right now. But I shake my head, I light up my sword, and I want to swing and try to destroy.
All right, so now what I will give you is a similar opportunity as I gave Darty. Now you can try to just straight up attack this weapon and destroy it, but in doing damage, you presume that like the natural unholy power of this would probably be pretty hard to do. But if you use a divine smite, whatever strength you have left from Lathander, and directly contest this evil in a contest of faith, maybe you can overcome Yeenoghu. But as you know that you connect with the sword and channel whatever power Lathander has with you, you will face off against the entity that is the Prince of Demons sent back to his hell and looking for nothing more than vengeance for those who did so. Do you wish to contest the abyssal scythe?
Well, I have 2 HP.
Mm-hmm.
So hell yeah.
What do you have left for
I'm
spell
going to use
slot?
my highest. I'm going to use my highest spell slot, which is a level 2 spell slot. And I just swing my sword, and I imagine it's sort of like Big Trouble in Little China when the two guys just swing the swords at each other, and there's that big beam of light that just, and I just swing towards the scythe, and I just want to just channel every last ounce of my life I got into destroying the evil.
Now, with a level 2 spell slot, although your faith is strong, you need more power from Lathander to contest this evil. But what it normally would do is be at disadvantage. So you can still contest this thing, but you're at disadvantage.
Let's do it.
All right. I also will remind you that everyone still has a point of inspiration, I believe, which nobody has used. You can cancel out this disadvantage and just contest this creature purely straight up, 1v1.
I would love to use that point of inspiration. Thank you for reminding me.
I'm here for you. Now, Yeenoghu's rage, his fury is nothing to be contested lightly. So as you do so, go ahead and give me your religion roll. And it's going to be a doozy. I can tell you straight up.
Okay. 22.
Yeenoghu fury, you meet it, you clash, and for a moment you're taken away to the 422nd layer of hell itself. You're not battling this abomination. You're face to face with Yeenoghu, the prince of demons, the beast of savagery, the lord of butchery. And he's standing there and he talks to you in a deep guttural voice and says, "You dare come to me? You dare face me?" You stand there, glowing in darkness.
Everything.
You charge at him.
Monster.
He's whipping his flails around. You charge in with your blade glowing with Lathander's energy. You meet him in contact. A light of dark, or a collage of light and dark kind of form this sphere, going back and forth. But then finally, you pray. And what is the last thought you have as I tell you the outcome of this roll?
I just go, I think back to everything, every moment that has led to this moment. I realize now why I was spared dying at the Battle of the Crimson Feast. I realized that my entire life has led to this moment, to rid the world of this scourge. And I just think, with all of the will I have left in my heart, and with everything that has come to here, all the allies who are depending on me to do this, everything that has led to this moment, all the suffering that has been caused by this horrid demon lord. I think of everyone that has died, and I try to almost reach out, even from the abyss itself, to everyone who has been hurt, who has been tortured, who has been brutalized by this foul being. And I just say, please, please.
You're sitting there, you feel the power of this creature, and you look, and the darkness is starting to take away your light. It's fading. The sphere is closing over top of you. What light you do see is fading away. It's almost completely engulfed you now. Yeenoghu standing above you. He's smiling. He's dripping blood. You look around, and you see thousands of gnolls all feasting in his lair. He begins to laugh, and he says, "Your faith is weak." Your weapon glowing, the last bastion of light in this dark plane. And then suddenly a crack of light rips across the darkness. And then another, it starts to splinter and splinter more. And the blackness starts to recede away. Yeenoghu standing there in disbelief. What? What do you mean? This can't be. And then boof. You're gone from this plane of existence. The weapon that the abomination is holding completely breaks into two, and he's left standing there weaponless. You see the gnolls themselves are like dumbfounded, lost. They don't know what to do. Their bloodlust has been just ripped away from them. The witherlings are themselves. That's the end of your turn, right? Because that's your action. We're going to say that's your action. And obviously...
Yeah, I just stand there, just staring up at this abomination. I just go, for the light.
Yeenoghu rolled
just with
a 21.
My sword smoking.
A 21 to your 22. As you banish this
weapon. My God.
The abomination is standing there. It doesn't know what to do. The flame's still howling. But with that cadence... You're up next, and you just hear this audible shockwave rip from the battlefield, and there's this momentary burst of light that comes across and just coalesces across the entire abbey, lifting some of this smoke, blowing it away. You look over, and you see a bloodied Varya just standing there on the mound versus this abomination. The two hunters beside you are looking dumbfounded. They don't even know what to do.
And for a brief moment after that, sort of like, I imagine when like the blade connected, it was like that. And then like a moment of silence before everything like ruptures out, and this wave of darkness and light sort of intermingled together sweeps across this battlefield. And for a moment, as Cadence looks down, she sees these spectral images She doesn't know if it's real. She doesn't know if anyone else sees it, but she sees these spectral images. She sees a familiar figure standing alongside Varia, wielding a longsword similar to herself, having gauntlets the same as hers. And he looks up at her and he nods, and she knows what she has to do. And with that emboldening presence of just Varia's last attempt to rid this world of darkness, bolstered by seeing her father again, Cadence just like pushes a hand forward, even like still holding the longsword, grabbing the gnoll by the scruff of the neck as I attempt to shove it off the battlement.
All right, that'll be a contest then. It's at disadvantage because it's in a bloodied state. So it rolled a 9.
That was I got a 21.
You push it off and it falls across, and being at 2 HP left, it definitely is dead.
And then she is going to just like do this bellow, this war cry as Bloodlust takes over, and she darts forward using her second attack and her bonus attack to bring both the longsword and the warhammer up through the remaining gnoll.
All right, go ahead and do so.
So that was 10 to hit with the longsword.
10 to hit.
A 23 to hit with the warhammer.
All right, longsword definitely missing. The other one definitely hitting.
Oh, man, that's 5 damage. As I roll a 1.
5 damage, unfortunately, does not take it down, but it's just left there, sitting there. And a creature that was once just absolutely the epitome of like feral and crazy is now just kind of standing there as if its existence has been ripped away from it. It no longer is foaming from the mouth. It just basically gets smashed in the face with your hammer and just is kind of standing there dumbfounded.
And it staggers back slightly, and she says to it in Gnollish, "Run while you still have the chance."
Absolutely. Anything else on your turn?
That's it.
All right. The witherlings themselves begin to fall apart, but not before, now that the scythe has been destroyed, basically all the crazy amount of attacks that they have been doing have been ripped away, but they're all going to try to swipe at you one more time, Varia, before they disintegrate, this energy being taken away. The first rolling a 15, the second rolling a 20. This is pretty good rolls now. Oh my God. And then the third rolling a natural 20. I'm literally not even kidding you. I'm sorry. All right. So 5 damage on the crit and then 4 more damage. And then as they just basically...
I had 2. I had 2 health. I'm down.
You drop unconscious as the last thing you see as the shockwave kind of disappears is these gnolls charge into them. And even in death or even in defeat, they know they've been defeated. They know that their powers are ripping away from them. They still want to draw blood and hunger for flesh. The witherlings stab into Varia, taking her down and then just bursting into a cloud of dusty smoke. Laura, you're up next. You see your friend vanquished. The witherlings disappear into smoke. Now all that's left are the 2 flesh rippers and the 1 hunter, and then what is left of this abomination with his weapon not left. You can tell that their spirits have been broken. What do you do, Laura, as you see Varia go down this last-ditch effort of heroism, this last-ditch effort to pray to Lathander and give you guys a fighting chance, but then quickly wiped away. She's down. What do you do?
Laura was watching as Varia somehow got back to her feet after taking so many attacks from so many different of these disgusting gnoll creatures, and then destroying this abomination's weapon right in front of her and then going down. It ignited a very rare fire within Laura, and you can almost see that fire in her eyes, maybe reflected from her blade, but she will avenge her fallen comrade, and she's going to use her action surge on this abomination.
All right.
So 18 on the first one.
Hit. It loses its ability to prairie now.
14 damage.
All right.
And then the fire is going to jump to an adjacent gnoll, and that is going to be 11 damage.
Perfect.
And then she's going to just continue slashing away with the green flame blade. That is actually a 24 to hit.
24 is definitely going to hit.
Yeah. Okay. That is 7 damage.
7 more damage on the abomination.
Yep. And then 7 damage to an adjacent target.
All right. Target. So you take out one of the 2 remaining flesh rippers. Actually, they're all remaining. I'm lying to you. That's the first one killed because they weren't really taking that much damage. So there's still 2 of those guys left, although obviously Spirit's broken. Anything else on your turn? As you are chunking into this abomination with fury and vengeance in your heart, you are chopping in, flames ricocheting and bursting into a ripper, completely just burns off the side of its face. It drops to the ground. The abomination, basically weaponless, is not any less angry. Anything else?
Yeah, she's just absolutely determined to take this thing down, and to do that she is going to use her bonus action to use Second Wind.
All right, nice.
And recover a little bit of HP.
Okay. Now, you're not going to like me, Jackson. I'm sorry in advance. But the flesh rippers are really good at one thing in particular, and that is ripping flesh. And they see you at the ground. Now, luckily, their rampage is over with the scythe being destroyed, and they don't get as many attacks, but they are both going to attack you as they try to rip into you. And luckily, there's only 2 left now. So that's 2 auto fails as they tear at your body and try to rip you to shreds. The last Gnoll hunter, as they, like I said, know they are defeated, but nonetheless, they will eat for Yeenoghu. They will have vengeance for their demon prince that has just been denied his right. And the hunter will come forth and try to attack you, Cadence. This time, his friend being down rolls a 16. Only 1 attack this time now that the spear has been done. And his spear hits you for 3 more damage.
Yep.
Darty, you're up next, but you're paralyzed until the end of your turn. So you're watching this all go down. And as you finally shake it off, you're ready to fight. There he is standing above you, the abomination, weaponless. All he has left to do is claw and bite, but he will do that if he's damned. He will take more of you down, for you have sinned his god. The first one coming in, he tries to chomp at your head, Darty. This time rolling a 13 to hit. He misses. He comes again, trying to scratch across, rolling a 20 to hit, Darty. I'm going to believe that does so. Or are you still at your high AC?
Let me check actually quickly, because sorry. Yeah, no, it's over because I was paralyzed. So yeah, my turn was already over. Yeah. So it's all 15 right. Again.
All right. So he hits you with the second one, only doing 4 damage. Hanging in
I
there.
have 1 HP, so
you're dropped.
I dropped, giving him the finger.
Cadence. You thought it was over. You thought that this last stand was it, but you realize how devastated your party is, and the Gnolls realize it themselves too. What do? The hunters, the rippers, they think that their only chance still is this abomination. You see Darty go down. You see Varia go down. It's just you and Laura fighting. What do you do? You also see Varia just about to bleed out also, just to add more problems to this.
How many are in that sort of like the area of death?
So Varia looks real fucking. Oh, the Gnolls?
Yeah, like how many are around Varia and Darty?
So there's 2 rippers left in the abomination. That's it. The rippers look good. Like mostly like not that injured, but the abomination's looking pretty beat up, and obviously basically the foundation of this raid or anger still.
She's she doesn't want this sacrifice, this effort to be in vain, and she doesn't think herself and Lure can do this on their own. So she's going to vault off the battlement and sprint towards Varia.
Disengaging or?
Nope.
All right. Good luck, sir. I don't know how badly you're injured, but here comes a spear attack. 17 to hit.
Yeah, that will hit.
All right. 4 more damage.
Okay.
Good.
The spear like pierces through her side, but she just grits her teeth, like vaulting off the battlement, hitting the deck, probably taking a bit of damage as she does so.
Acrobatics check to see if you do. It's 15 foot. If you are well enough on your feet, you can absorb the damage.
That is a 13.
13 is I'm gonna say not enough. Apologies. Here comes another 3 bludgeoning damage.
Cool. And she's just going to sprint towards, like, just into the crowd of assailants and just try and scoop up Varia and just pull her to the side. And as her hands, like, touch Varia, they're going to glow as she's casting Cure Wounds.
Oh, shit. The Rippers are ripping away. You come in, you kind of jump down, momentarily twisting your ankle, but you're not going to let this happen. You run up, you grab her, the pulling away at the Rippers. How much do you heal her for?
Max 11. I get max on that.
Varia, you thought that the last thing that you would have done is denied this demon lord his ability to infect the land any further, and you were content with that. But you feel a warmth, a light kind of bay in over you. You think that maybe this is your way to the gates of Lathander, your god. You're going to meet him finally. You see the eyes instead of Cadence. As you feel a healing energy over you, you look to your side. She has you scooped up. There's still 2 Rippers and the Abomination left. Cadence?
Do I have any movement left, do you think, to
just
sort
a
of pull her away? So basically, I'm just going to, like, scoop her up with, like, the gauntlets of ogre power giving me 19 strength, just like hoisting her up and just like pushing as forward as I can, keeping myself between her and the Gnolls, because if she can survive a bit longer, we can maybe win this.
Do you have anything to stop their opportunity attacks then?
No.
All right, good luck, sir. I like this. This is sick as heck. Natural 1 and a 12 to hit, as they no longer get the super attack. They miss you with both strikes. You pick her up with the ogre strength and you back up and you tell her that her fight is not over. She must continue. How the hell did I get to you without doing Varia first? Did I mess that up? Or no, that was Varia's turn. So that would put up. Did I miss somebody? Sorry.
Oh, I think we might have skipped Craig.
Yeah, I think we skipped Craig. Sorry. My apologies, dude.
No, I thought I was after Cadence.
Well, yeah, you're after Cadence. So how the hell did I get to Cadence? What am I doing? I skipped Varia's death save.
I think we skipped Varia because she was dying.
Yeah, my bad. Varia is still there. I see that he's BRB.
Jackson, quickly BRB.
Yeah, I will. Let's just go to. That was my bad. Sorry, guys. Let's just go to you again, anyways, Laura, and dramatic BRB.
So Laura sees Cadence rush in, taking a couple of hits on her way in and kind of stumbling off the battlements as she rushes in to save Varia, and the spurs Laura on, and she's determined to protect her allies as best she can and see if maybe she can draw some of these Gnolls' attention on her instead. Is Laura possibly within 5 feet of both Rippers and the Abomination?
Yeah, I'll say that it's all dogpiled here, and the shit's kind of like coming to like an end here as everyone's just kind of gathered around fighting bloodily. Mud's everywhere, blood's everywhere.
Okay. Laura sticks her hand up in the air and traces a wide circle real quick. And suddenly these ethereal blades just come out of nowhere and strike both Rippers and the Abomination at the same time. She is casting Sword Burst.
Nice. What do I need to do here?
Let's see. Dex save 14.
Abomination failed. Rippers fail and pass.
Hey, they all take 9 damage.
9 damage. Very cool. And then half if they've succeeded?
And then half if they succeeded.
Okay.
Or if they made the save, they don't take any.
Yep. Okay. So the one that did fail, you finish him off, leaving 1 Ripper left. And the Abomination also failed, putting him in a pretty bloodied stance. Now, Jackson, we missed a pretty dramatic thing. That's my apologies. As Cadence ran in to heal you, I completely forgot that you needed to make a dex save first. So at 2 fails, this all comes down to you getting your last success to not die before she heals you.
Okay.
As
Here we
apparently
go.
all the rolls are coming down to you.
You don't happen to have that inspiration left, do you?
No, I used it to fight the demon prince.
I would like to use my inspiration to give you
Absolutely. Roll at advantage.
advantage.
All
on the
right.
saving throw.
Well, that's good because I rolled a 3.
Hey.
And here's the kicker. A 10.
A sigh of relief, Cadence, as you feel the life come back to Varia. You tell her that the fight is not over, and that puts us at the 1 Ripper left. It is going to rip into Darty. So Darty, fail. The Hunter is going to try to take down you, Cadence, as you just left the battle with it. And it pulls out its longbow, shooting once. It misses again. Darty, I need a death save from you, my good sir. Don't roll a 1.
Sure. 18.
18, a success. The Abomination now. It sees Cadence that you brought back life to Varia. Varia. And it walks over to you. And you now see that with the scythe being destroyed, the human side of this creature is starting to come back, and its face starts to mutate again, half of it being the burned remains of this priest, and he's yelling out in pain, and the other half, this gnoll creature that hungers for your flesh. It tries to, Cadence, bite into you for an 18, 23 to hit. It's going to claw at you for an 8. And then its last attack, a 22 to hit. Here comes 2 bites. 10 damage in total. Still standing?
Only just.
Only just. All right. The Abominations turns over. Varia, you're back from the dead. You thought that your mission was over and that you've done enough, but still, you must fight. The Abomination barrels down. You know that if you can defeat this creature, you can completely break the spirits of these gnolls. But do you have the strength to do it still?
Varia comes back with a... But...
The creature has already descended upon Cadence and is ripping into her.
And I see this, and I just slowly get up, and I just weakly pick up my sword. It's red hot from the amount of sunfire that's been put through it. And I just gaze up at this creature, and I take a deep breath, and I take my sword, and I just run, and I just send it into it, and I'm going to use my last 2nd level slot for a smite.
All right, let's get that damage on. Let's hit it first, I guess, before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
I guess this is just fate, my dude, but that's a natural 20.
Hey, I like it. There's no better fate than that. Let's see what you can roll.
Oh my god. What is it with the natural 20s and the smites? Okay, here we go. So. And you double your dice, right?
Yes, sir. Nice
Okay,
big juicy crits. Cue the stressful silence.
We would like to take this time to thank our lovely god, Lathander, for giving us the holy power to fight through this fight.
Absolutely.
Y'all better convert to the church after this.
I've seen the light.
That is 53 points of damage, mostly radiant.
Go ahead and describe to me what this abomination's last scenes look like.
As it's descending upon Cadence, I just say, "No more," and I rush and I actually like leap onto its knee, as I imagine it's bent down, and I just send my sword upward right into its heart, and it kind of falls back, and I'm screaming, and I just slam it further in, and the fire just starts to burn through it as I just push it so far back that he falls onto his back. But as he falls, the entire form turns to ash, and I simply land, boom, with my sword sticking through the ground as a cloud of ash explodes around me. And
Beautiful.
in the image of angel wings, I guess.
Angel wings rupture from the back of Varia. Cadence, you see the abomination go down. You feel this radiant light. You feel it power you. You're on the brink of death. You've given everything you've had in this fight, but suddenly this energy washes over you. Describe to me what it looks like as you have the energy to get back up, turn around, and finish off this Gnoll hunter.
Just this aura of radiance just begins to wash over the area, not just around Varia and Cadence, but just the entire battlefield. And it's almost like these like motes of heavenly light are just like drifting upwards from the ground, and everyone's sort of like tunics in that are beginning to waft in this like heavenly breeze. And she just turns and just like knocks an arrow. Her swords have been left on the battlement, and she just pulls off her bow, knocks an arrow, and just draws it back, firing it towards this gnoll. And as it pierces through all these different motes of heavenly light, the arrow begins to glow, and it morphs and it changes into like imagery reminiscent of Lathander, and it just pierces into the gnoll. It staggers back once, twice before its eyes gloss over, and it hits the dirt. It's not elegant. It's not fancy. It's just dead.
Cadence, as you finish this shot, a sigh of relief comes over you, and you feel a presence behind you. You don't look as you feel this faintly, almost ethereal hand, this big gauntlet rest on your shoulders. You don't look back, but you feel your father's presence watching over you in this battle. He's proud of you, and you know that he helped protect you in this fight. He gave you the strength. He helped you fight with your friends to overcome this evil, and you feel him behind you, a proud father of what his daughter accomplished.
She will actually feel the gauntlet, and she'll place her hand there over his before just dropping to her knees in exhaustion.
Laura, as this scene happens, Cadence dropping to her knees, no longer able to fight. The radiant energy fills you too, a moon elf who has lived through centuries of wars, battling the bloodiest of bloody creatures, demons, gnolls, everything. This fight has taken more out of you than you have thought you could have had in the centuries of your battle. But Varia's strength, apparently I'm struggling with it towards the end, comes over you, and you look at this last flesh ripper. How does Laura finish off the very last enemy of this battle, the century-old elf that has fought many wars?
Laura's standing there. She watches as Varia just unbelievably destroys this abomination. The pure divine power that she just felt radiating from Varia was almost overwhelming. And she drops her shield. She takes her rapier and just shoves it through this gnoll's head right between the eyes. And then she looks over and she sees Osric standing right behind Cadence, and knows that cadence has made her father proud.
Absolutely. You both, all of you, collapse in exhaustion. Darty, you're bleeding out on the battlefield. I'll leave it to you. Do you want to make a death save here and see if you because obviously next turn the paladins or whatnot could probably stabilize you. But what happens to Darty as he's laying there bleeding out, the tormented gnome? Do you want to make your roll, or do you want to narrate something?
I'll just see if I roll a natural one to see if the fate of death is calling him. This is
Give me
only
my
one.
kill. Give me my kill.
Oh, 7. It's a fail. It's not a critical fail, but I feel like what is happening is there is all this positive energy flowing around now. The evil has been destroyed for at least for the moment, and it should be healing Darty, should be bringing him back, but he just wants to die because there is no life for him here. He's just going madder and madder, and seeing these creatures do that with people, forcing them to eat guts and stuff, and he's just there's and I think he wakes up eventually seeing these 3 allies, and they're so marvelous to his eyes. They have hope, they serve gods, and they are full of light. And he's nothing. He's just a gnome who's completely mad. So I think he's just standing there looking at them, thinking, why am I here? Why am I still here? Trying to die every fight. I'm trying to die, and I just can't. It's like the gnolls are just lesser evil, and he'll keep on going. And I think you'd see Darty going fight after fight after fight, trying to die, and eventually, I think he's gonna find something to live for. Maybe it was these 3 people that would give him hope. But yeah,
Very cool.
he just bringing hope back to his life.
Imagine he kind of watches that unfold, and he sees these people standing for good and having their own causes for fight. And you question, what is your cause? You think to the family that you've lost, and you still feel that anger, but you know that there's something beyond it, and maybe that these 3 are the key to it. You all sit around, kind of picking yourself outside of the golden fields, the harvest home. You don't want to be near this disgusting place anymore. You've distanced yourself. You're sitting around a campfire, and it sinks in at this moment. It's been 4 days since the war against Yeenoghu has been over. That fight that you just fought felt like it could have been your last. Yet, it's not your last. There's still so much work to do. The infection of Yeenoghu still ravages the land. You all collapse in exhaustion from sleep and prepare yourself for the next day in the long, drawn-out end of Yeenoghu's rampage, but beginning of the curing of his corruption. We'll end it there, as you all survived. Congratulations, guys. That was a ton of fun.
Oh man, that was awesome.
Absolutely.
That was so cool. That is one of the most fun sessions I've ever played.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. You guys were absolutely incredible. I literally could not freaking ask for a better group of dudes, and I've literally never played with these guys before. So again, if you end up watching this and you think this is cool, I'm going to blast it again. Join the AbTab Facebook group, and you could have sick D&D sessions like this. You guys all great players. 100% would be honored to have any of you in my game again.
I'd love to come back to one of your games, man. It was so emotive. So it was just I could visualize. It was so good. It was brilliant.
So brutal.
This was a lot of fun, and it was just great. It was awesome.
Guys, that was super cool.
I think we were all expecting a good game, but I don't think we were expecting like that. That was amazing.
I don't
Yeah,
think
man.
we were expecting 2 levels of critting smite sort of good game.
Yeah, that was literally down to the dice rolls too. Like, holy fuck, I was like wondering if we were gonna TPK or not, but that was some intense gameplay, and I literally it couldn't have been done without you guys. Everyone like top notch. Like that was some mind-boggling RP from everyone, and I appreciate you guys. That was a very memorable one shot for me. So I don't know. Anyone want to say anything else before closing out? Definitely, you guys are gonna type me in your things afterwards, and I'm gonna link in the description your channels. Again, super fun, guys. That's it for me. So anyone want to say anything else before we peace out?
I'd just say it was like, of course, it was an amazing game. I had like just the whole going from 60 to 6 HP in pretty much like the course of 2 turns. Terrifying. The fact that there's a whole narration bit of Yeenoghu and that was brilliant, and I would love to play with you guys again. It was fantastic, and if you do join the AppTab Facebook group and like get in one of these games, you're going to have a blast just like we did.
Perfect. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if anybody's watching this, definitely go join the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. That's how I got here. It's my first session, and it was amazing. Absolute blast.
Sick. Nicholas or Jackson, anything in closing?
The gore, man.
Yeah. I warned you it was going to be bloody. I wasn't playing around.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, the part with the guts and everything. I was just listening to that, and it was so well done, and I thought, man, I could just see it, and really, I was feeling Dari at that moment. I was really feeling my character and feeling, man, how can you not go mad in something like that?
Yeah, sick.
Just so fucked up.
Yeah, I like my Gnolls being metal as fuck.
Thinking D&D characters are just mad people, because how I would never go near anything like this.
No, you go the other way.
I mean, I'm a little gnome, and I'm thinking, let's fight these things. No, never, man.
All right.
So
what
good,
about you?
so good.
What about you, Jackson? Anything?
I mean, man, this was amazing. I loved this game. I loved how like there were like at least 4 moments that could have been like painted on a Meatloaf album cover. I love how fucking nightmarish you made the Gnolls, which are my favorite low-level monster, and I'm totally respectfully as a DM gonna steal some of that for my Gnoll games.
Same here.
Oh yeah. I think we're all gonna take a piece from this delicious blood gut-filled pie. Thanks for this amazing game, and to anyone watching, yes, check out the AbTab Facebook group. It is where like-minded, creative people can come together and make wonderful stories like this come to life. Chris, this was amazing. I would gladly play with you and everyone here again any day of the week. Count me in. This was amazing. Thank you so much, dude. This was righteous.
Thanks, guys. That means a lot to hear from everybody. And in closing, before we go out, I just remembered one thing that I meant to plug earlier, but I didn't. If you did watch this session and thought, hey, I want to play in a game with perhaps me and perhaps other people, I have just very recently started what I am calling the Tomb of Annihilation's West Marches campaign. A West March campaign is basically where a couple of DMs, maybe one, maybe more, run basically one-shot oriented games in a campaign format for 10 to 20 players. So if you are interested in that, I'm also going to link that in the description. I'm taking pretty much everyone. I would honestly highly recommend that you 4 join, because I'd love to have you guys in some more games. And I'm looking to kick that off by like early next month. And it's basically just going to be a Facebook group oriented to players picking up a group of party members and going out on an adventure in the current Wizards of the Coast module, Tomb of Annihilation. So if that's interesting to you guys, join that up. But I will close it out tonight as we're running later than I planned to. Again, such a great game, guys. An honor to play with you all, and I hope that we cross paths again for sure. Thank you for watching, everybody. I am the role-playing Ginger, and these guys are some great RPMs themselves. Peace out, and until next time, ciao.